may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. I hope everybody survived the weekend of exploding trees and canceled and delayed flights. So, of course, we begin today with the ICE-involved shooting death of Alex Preddy, the ICU nurse up in what was formerly Minneapolis, Minnesota. And there's a lot to cover here, but I guess I'll start with the immediate response on Saturday when the news broke that there was an ICE-involved shooting and the individual had died. The initial response from the administration vis-a-vis Kristi Noem, first and foremost, she's the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. And then over the weekend from Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, from Kash Patel and others. And I mean, we will compare and contrast the agitprop from the left that we have become accustomed to, that has instigated an aggressive, if not often violent, posture towards federal law enforcement. But I got to tell you, I was underwhelmed again by Kristi Noem. This is the second time in a row she's done this, if you include the Renee Good shooting. I know there was an ICE-involved shooting in between, and that's also relevant, actually. But her initial response in the Renee Good shooting, her initial response in the Alex Preddy shooting, it just was out over her skis. She provided characterizations and alleged motivations that were not in evidence, as when she said the following.
The Department of Homeland Security law enforcement officials and officers were conducting targeted operations in Minneapolis against an illegal alien whose criminal history included domestic assault with intentionally inflicting bodily harm, disorderly conduct, and driving without a valid license. An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics were on the scene immediately and attempted to deliver medical aid to the subject, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 magazines with ammunition in them that held dozens of rounds. He also had no ID. This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at this scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement.
I think that's a tough statement to make out based on just what we know at this point. And this is 36 hours after Kristi Noem made those statements. 312, almost 48 hours. 312-642-5600 is the Chicago Morning Answer call-in and text line if you want to call in or text in as to your reviews of both whether or not you thought this was a legitimate shooting by federal law enforcement officers, as well as the competing rhetoric in response to the shooting. Now, even to make my point about Noem, the next day she's on with Peter Doocy on Fox, and she softens that characterization she initially made. Why make such an aggressive initial characterization when you don't know the facts? Keep it to what you know and what we're going to attempt to find out. I mean, Greg Bovino did a much better job of not getting ahead of himself by saying there's an investigation going on, and questions that people have as to whether or not the subject, Preddy, was disarmed when ICE opened fire, whether he made a gesture towards the gun, whether they saw that he had a gun in their initial contact with him when he was trying to intervene between ICE and another protester slash rioter slash impeder that ICE was dealing with. We don't know the answers to those questions, and Bovino hesitated to draw conclusions until the investigation is complete and we have a better handle on those questions. Kristi Noem the next day.
You said last night, it looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement. Did he say, I'm going to kill you, or did he leave a note? How do you know that was his intent?
You know, part of this investigation will be hearing from those agents and officers and people on the ground. But we do know that he came to that scene and impeded a law enforcement operation, which is against federal law. It's a felony. When he did that, interacting with those agents, when they tried to get him to disengage, he became aggressive and resisted them throughout that process. These officers used their training, followed their protocols, and were in fear of their lives and the people around them. And that's how this tragedy unfolded, and we hope we never see it again. It grieves me to think about what his family is going through, but it also grieves me what's happening to these law enforcement officers every day out on the streets with the violence that they face.
With due respect, did you ever get the feeling that Kristi Noem is fed a script and she has either the lack of capacity or the lack of confidence to go off that script and speak like a human being? Because that's the feeling I've gotten for a while, and I think it's come to the fore in the last couple of weeks to the detriment of both her, the agency, ICE, as well as the administration writ large. Now contrast that to Bovino's press briefing, Commander Bovino, who was pressed on some of these same issues as to, the details here. And other than providing information that the agents involved in that shooting are still working outside of Minnesota, he was considerably more restrained.
All agents that were involved in that scene are working, not in Minneapolis, but in other locations. That's for their safety. There's this thing called doxing, and the safety of our employees is very important to us. So we're going to keep those employees safe. As far as the number of shots, the number of agents involved, that, again, is going to come out in the investigation. I'm not going to speculate on who did what, when they did it, how they did it, or what exactly occurred there. I'm going to wait for the investigation to let me know what happened.
Right. Now, the other response that I heard from Kash Patel and others that is problematic for me is the one that he gave in part of his conversation, because he also didn't want to get ahead of the investigation. FBI has the gun in question. They're processing it in their ballistics lab. They're doing their part of the work here with respect to this investigation, and he's not going to preordain conclusions. So that was good. This other part of what he had to say, though, to Maria Bartiromo, problematic. At least if you believe in an individual's constitutional right to protect himself.
And as for this latest shooting, yes, DHS and HSI are the lead, and the FBI is processing the physical evidence, so we're in possession of the firearm, which is going to go to our laboratory. But as Secretary Noem said, no one who wants to be peaceful shows up at a protest with a firearm that is loaded with 2 full magazines. That is not a peaceful protest, and you do not get to touch law enforcement. You do that anywhere, this FBI is going to be leading the charge to arrest those.
Well, you do not get to touch law enforcement. That's true. But the idea that if I am lawfully carrying a weapon, I am by definition violent. Excuse me? I'm sorry, excuse me, Mr. Director? No, that's not right. And what we know about Preety, at least the reporting on this, is that he was a lawful concealed carry holder in the state of Minnesota. And he was in a public space, sidewalk and street, when he was carrying. Now, interfering with federal law enforcement operation, and you're armed, and you don't detail that you're armed, and you resist arrest, or I don't know what was said, and I don't know what law enforcement saw, and I don't know what he attempted to do. That's a different story. But to say that because you are lawfully carrying a weapon, an exercise of your individual Second Amendment rights makes you that's an act of violence? No. So, boy, oh boy, how about a little Zoom call? And let's tighten up what we're saying about what we believe to be true, where the lines are between protesting and rioting, protesting and impeding, what people are and are not allowed to do, as well as what we know and what we don't know happened on Saturday morning. How about that? Very sloppy. And frankly, it speaks to the statements that both Noam and Kash Patel in particular made speak to me as two people who don't understand what an individual's right to protect themselves is under the Second Amendment in this country, and that's disturbing. This is separate and distinct from whether or not this was a lawful shoot, which we'll get into. But those comments deserve rebuke, starting from our side, starting from conservatives. We know better. We know better than that. That's a dangerous precedent that Kash Patel wants to set. And he's the FBI director. That's a problem. Bob in Edison Park.
Yeah, Dan, just to touch up on your point, which was made beautifully. This whole Justice Department with Trump has been horrible on the Second Amendment. Bondi, from everything from the NFA on down, she's as hard to grasp as a lump of mercury. One day she's for the Second Amendment, the next day she's against the Second Amendment. And I can't say it better than you did. You took my thunder. If we're going to say, is Kyle Rittenhouse, when we supported him on our side for his right to exercise the Second Amendment at a protest, I mean, I'm reading comments on Breitbart and other news websites. I can't believe these people call themselves pro-Second Amendment. I mean, they went from, oh, yes, I mean, you don't even need a permit to carry a gun, in all honesty. But
Right.
that's an argument for a different day. But they went from, he was his permits proper and all. I mean, it from our side is disgusting. And thanks for a great point.
Thanks for the call, Bob. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, let's not lose our foundation here in our sort of knee-jerk attempt to just be against whatever the other side is saying. There's a lot what the other side is saying to be against, but let's do it on the merits. Honestly, this is the sort of the MAGA willful blindness sometimes that is problematic to me, and then and I'm happy to endure the blowback because those statements were outrageous. The fight has been so protracted and so long and required a particular originalist composition of the Supreme Court to extend the individual right to protect oneself to the entire country, to provide definition. And then because you're trying to cover your ass, you're going to say something like Kash Patel and Kristi Noem said? No. Sorry, I'm not on board with that. Roy and Glen Ellen.
Yeah, once again, Dan, sorry for the graphic description, but diarrhea of the mouth gets you in trouble. You look at Bovino's statement, direct to the point, as a cop would say. The other two, no clue, politicians. And you said it best. Have a meeting. Sit down. What are we going to discuss? But no, everyone's free to just ramble on, and that's trouble.
Thanks for the call, Roy. All right, we'll obviously continue this conversation because we want to get to a discussion of whether or not it was a legitimate use of force by ICE in people's view, based on what we know, as with humility about what we don't know, as some of the questions I raised. We'll do that at 5:38. Take more of your calls, 312-642-5600. We'll do that after we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 0 degrees with a wind chill of -18 here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Protesters braved the frigid temps in Chicago over the weekend, showing their disdain after a nurse was shot and killed by ICE agents in Minneapolis on Saturday. A prayer vigil was held following a march on Sunday honoring the life of Illinois-born 37-year-old ICU nurse Alex Jeffrey Preddy and expressing solidarity with the people of Minneapolis. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson took to his social media several times over the weekend calling for ICE and Border Patrol agents to be removed from the city. 2 people are dead, including a 2-year-old child, following an incident in Joliet on Sunday. Police were called to the 700 block of Garnsey Avenue in Joliet, where the victims were discovered around 9 a.m. Police say a person of interest is in custody and the homicide is under investigation. And the Illinois Department of Revenue will begin accepting 2026 individual income tax returns today. The deadline to file Illinois returns is Wednesday, April 15th. This report is sponsored by Supershore. Do you own a small business? You need to hear this. A seismic shift is coming. It's time to get Supershore. Not kind of sure, not pretty sure, not a little sure, but Supershore. The seismic shift is coming. Supershore coming soon.
I'm Jeannie Ives.
And I'm Amy Jacobson. Join us for The Real Story beginning Monday, February 2nd from 11 to noon, Monday through Friday.
We'll bring you the real information from Springfield, Chicago, and beyond. We'll expose the lies and misinformation from the politicians and the media.
Listen to us on the station or online at 560theanswer.com. You can watch us live on Breakthrough Ideas Facebook page or Breakthrough Ideas YouTube channel.
The Real Story begins on Monday, February 2nd at 11 a.m.
Well, that was a surprise. The HVAC tech just said our furnace apparently has a cracked heat exchanger, and it'll cost thousands.
Oh, you're kidding. He barely looked at it. Now he's pushing a huge repair? What should we do?
I don't really trust them. We need a second opinion. My brother Mark recommended Air Right Heating and Cooling. I looked them up and they seem legit. Great Google reviews. I'm sure they'd give us an honest assessment. He liked that they checked their carbon monoxide readings so he knows the air they're breathing is safe. And I guess it also gave a sense of how much life was left in their furnace.
I'd love that peace of mind. Plus, why spend a fortune on something we might not even need?
Get a second opinion from Air Right Heating and Cooling. Tell them AM 560 sent you and get $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling right now at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
Every morning, across Latin America and the Caribbean, a mother wakes to the sound of her child crying, not from play, but from hunger. She has nothing to give, no breakfast, no clean water, only a prayer that today will somehow be different. You can be the answer to that prayer. Right now, through 560 The Answer and Food for the Poor, your generosity provides what every child deserves: food to eat, clean water to drink, and a future filled with hope. Just $150 gives 2 children life's most basic needs: food and water. $300 helps 4 children survive and thrive. To give your life-saving gift today, call toll-free 844-862-4673. That's 844-862-HOPE. Because when you give, you're not just feeding a child, you're giving life. Call toll-free 844-862-4673. 844-862-HOPE.
File your taxes for free with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. Just file on your own in the Credit Karma app by February 28th. Valid for those who didn't file with TurboTax last year.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be mostly sunny with brisk and very cold conditions reaching a high of 9. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with brisk and very cold weather, dropping to a low of 5 before temperatures rise into the lower teens. Tomorrow will bring low clouds, brisk winds, and bitterly cold temperatures with a high of 14. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. On February 24th, President Trump will deliver his State of the Union address to Congress, and AM 560 The Answer is throwing a viewing party. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/party.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, talking about the ice-involved shooting of Alex Preddy over the weekend. I refer to him as a ICU nurse because he was. God, I'm already getting heat for that. Text from 224, calling him a nurse is disingenuous. Well, I mean, he was a registered nurse since 21. He had an active nursing license and was an intensive care nurse and nuisance for the Department of Veterans Affairs hospital in Minneapolis. So, yeah, he was a nurse. He was an agitator, not a nurse. Wasn't Laken Riley a nurse? Okay, well, I'm happy to call Laken Riley a nurse, too. Really? That's the big point. He's a human being. He had a profession. I'm referencing it. Please don't fall into the trap of, say, a Kristi Noem, of feeling the need to overstate the case or make statements that are not supported by what we know at this juncture. It's unhelpful. I mean, your choice. But if you think arguing about whether it's okay to refer to Alex Preddy as a nurse and recognize him as a human being is the way to go, you're wrong. It's silly. Stop it. But let's talk about whether or not that was a responsible use of force based on the video that the entire Western world has seen, anybody who wants to see it, what he did on that day. It wasn't that he was carrying a gun to the protest, as is his right. That wasn't the problem. The problem wasn't his professional background. That wasn't the problem. The problem was that when he and his fellow travelers were tracking ICE, and if you've seen the video, you've got two women confronting an ICE officer, and as Kristi Noem said, this was during an operation where they were attempting to bring into custody someone accused of or convicted of, I'm not sure which, of domestic violence and other related crimes. So this was an ICE operation, and those two women were impeding, or at least the ICE officer believed they were, as they're there and two of them are confronting him. And so there is pushback. Preddy is in the background filming it in the middle of the street and traffic having to move around him. And then those women persist and the ICE agent pushes them back out of the perimeter that he once secured. And one of them continues to be obstreperous. She gets pushed down by the ICE agent. And that's when Preddy intervenes, and that's when things go awry. He intervened in a law enforcement action. That officer dealing with that agitator who was impeding their operation. And then on the ground, other agents come to this agent's rescue. So there are half a dozen agents, and Preddy's on the ground, and he apparently is resisting arrest. First he intervened, then he's resisting arrest, because otherwise, why do you need 6 agents? Why are they rousting him? If he turns over, puts his hands up, gives up, and lets the officer conduct his business, and whatever business he has with the officer, that's for courts of law, as we say, every time there is an incident of resisting arrest. And then in the tumult and the tussle, and I'm sure everybody's seen this, the freeze frames and the red circle around the Sig Sauer, and whether or not Preddy had it, whether or not he brandished it, whether or not he made any utterances, whether or not he was disarmed before one of the agents yelled gun and they open fire as they step back. But what we do know is that Alex Preddy made the wrong decision to intervene when a police officer was dealing with a suspect. And that's just simple. I mean, think about it in any other context. If you see a police officer dealing with a suspect where he has had to get physical, do you intervene on behalf of the suspect? Do you recognize that would be impeding law enforcement? It's illegal? Of course you do. And, also keep this in the back of your mind. I mentioned the other shooting that's not talked about anymore. Renee Good has talked about, Alex Preddy's talked about, the shooting involving an ICE officer chasing down a illegal immigrant criminal who's armed. They get in a tussle. The officer shot in the leg. The illegal immigrant criminal is shot. Both survive. But while they're wrestling, 2 people run out of an apartment building and pile on the officer. That was how they intervened. You don't think that ICE is aware of the circumstances they're dealing with at incidents like that? So even more reason to understand where the lines are and abide them. But Alex Preedy didn't do that. As with Renee Good, I'm not celebrating his death. I'm sorry that he died. Unnecessary death is always and everywhere a tragedy. However, your good intentions don't absolve you of the consequences of how you behave in furtherance of your beliefs. And that's something that I think is just a general problem in our culture. My good intentions, as defined by me, immunize me from my behavior in furtherance of my good intentions as to advance my particular beliefs on a particular subject. No. No consequences because my intentions are pure. That's not how it works. It's what you do. And consequences attach. Both just in a public policy realm where people don't connect the dots, as in something as serious as this that turns into a life and death situation. 312-642-5600 is the Chicago Morning Answer call-in and text line if you want to do either. Corey Woodlawn.
Hey, thanks for taking the call, Dan. This is a very intentional thing that is going on in front of our eyes. You've got lawmakers out there telling people that they can use stand-your-ground laws against law enforcement officers. You've got the state and the counties releasing known criminals into the communities, and then they're weaponizing the sick in our communities to go out there and confront law enforcement officers while they're trying to detain these individuals because they were just in county jails and the cities and the states wouldn't detain these individuals. This is a very bad precedent we're setting. And what about the decent in these neighborhoods? How are we supposed to live our lives with these maniacs running around? I feel for the individual losing his life, Dan. I really do. No, all life is tragic when it's lost. But, man, these officers are in a really bad situation. It's very bad to be out here and have a community against you. Chicago's got 13,000 officers, 2 million citizens. What happens when someone weaponizes 2 million against 13,000? These officers don't stand a chance.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Well said, Corey. Thank you. Wall Street Journal opining Alex Preedy made a mistake, but he wasn't a domestic terrorist. Yeah, I know. Suggesting that he was out to kill cops was an unfortunate overstatement by Noam. But it's not. That's not the question. He made a mistake, and officers responded within the bounds of their power. Anyway, Wall Street Journal, time for ICE to pause in Minneapolis. Is that what you think? Time for a pause? You had J.D. Vance out there last week extending an olive branch, which, of course, was rejected, expressing the administration's desire to work with state and local officials. Now we should pause? Let cooler heads prevail? Is that what you think is going to happen? It's very Pollyannish from the Journal editorial board. And, of course, now things are going to get ratcheted up because neither side is going to stand down. I mean, Tim Walz activated the National Guard, but he just activated them to pass out hot chocolate and coffee and donuts to the professional agitators and impeders, the gaggles of goons and droogs and nitwits that have made confronting law enforcement, federal or state and local, their profession. Oh, and some other, awfuls from the suburbs as well thrown in there. Sure. Okay, I'll grant you that. Time to pause? I don't think so. Time to make a choice? Time for the American public to make a choice about whether or not they want civilization to go forward in this country? Yes. Whether or not they want the rule of law to be enforced against people in this country illegally and people who want to act illegally in furtherance of people in this country illegally? Yes. That's time to make that choice. Sure. Time to make a pause, to de-escalate. It's not going to de-escalate. There's not going to be de-escalation. What about what you're seeing on the streets of Mogadishu and St. Paul, Minnesota, says to you de-escalation is something under consideration from the open borders, abolish ICE, sanctuary city state set? What about that? What about their antics? I mean, lost in all this, of course, is what we have seen. By the way, for example, all of this, get out of here, ICE, state and local can do the job, right, which is why you had to activate the National Guard. Get out of here, ICE, state and local can do the job, right, which is why the public safety commissioner for the, I think, state of Minnesota, Bob Jacobson, had this to say about when ICE left the scene where the Alex Priddy shooting took place, and local police, local and state, were there to try to manage the scene, and then they had to abdicate.
What I will tell you, and not to get further into the investigation, but DHS pulled out of the scene, leaving that to Minnesota State Patrol, Minneapolis. We did not have enough resources to be able to hold that ground safely, and we had to leave that scene.
What do you mean? They're peaceful protesters. Why wouldn't you have enough resources to hold that ground safely? It's just peaceful protesters milling about, chanting, singing folk songs. Oh, right. Oh, I forgot. The other part of the story is then the mob shows up and starts throwing, bottles with ice at ICE officers and assaulting ICE officers. One officer, Tricia McLaughlin from the Department of Homeland Security, posted pictures. One ICE officer had a rioter bite his finger off. But tell me you're not dealing with an element of the animal kingdom here. Bit his finger off. The pictures are online. They couldn't hold it. Bob, I don't understand. Bob? Where's the other Bob? I thought there were two. They couldn't hold it. Peaceful protesters. The best of Minnesota, Tim Walz told us. Why would police, local police, who they love, they say, oh, local police is fine, it's just ICE. Right, the same local police that they treated like ICE back in the summer of love, burned down a police precinct. But sure, okay. They love them. Well, then what's the problem? It would just be friends congregating with friends, Bob. Hold a perimeter, not enough resources to safely do it. Huh. So it's just about law enforcement generally, huh, Bob? It's not just about federal law enforcement. Chris on the Dan Ryan.
Hey, Dan, good morning. I've got two topics real quick. First off, I'm 2A all day, so I support everyone who carries a gun. That's my issue with the situation. But as taught by my father, you don't bring a gun into a situation such as volatile as that. Okay, that's just not a place you bring a gun into. No.
I would say you don't put yourself in a situation that is as volatile as that in contravention of the law, which is what Priddy did.
And I agree with that, but why would you bring that extra item in there with you? Why do you need to bring it with you? You don't need to bring it in there. You know the situation. You've seen it on the news. There's no reason to bring it.
Why? Actually, there is a reason to bring it. There's an animal element out there. Clearly, they're biting fingers off. So my point is to say, if you want to go there and protect and have the means of your protection to chronicle it, to do whatever you do, that's fine. And that's probably what he intended to do. But then he made the huge error in judgment to violate the law and interfere with a law enforcement officer who is dealing with the suspect. And then it escalated. Then he's got a gun. And then there's a melee. And maybe some people thought he was disarmed. Some of the officers, some thought he was disarmed. They didn't. They saw a gun. They saw him being disarmed and they called gun because they thought it was him pulling it out. I don't know. But it wasn't his decision to lawfully exercise his Second Amendment individual right of self-protection. It was the decision to unlawfully interfere with police.
And I agree. Good point. The second topic I have to say real quick is that, I read an article that these ICE guys have like 45 days of training before they're put on the field. I don't think that that's enough training, especially when you have a pistol and you're being mobbed by a bunch of goobies that are just being total jerks. You know what I mean? And that's what I have to say about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Bovino addressed that, and that is one of those talking points that has been promulgated by the left. And of course, as who was it, Twain, who said a lie travels halfway around the world before the truth gets its pants on. Well, that certainly happens when you have, the legacy media amplifying their agitprop. That's not true. These are like a bunch of untrained hillbillies that they just picked up from the local watering hole and threw them out on the street. That's not true. And, frankly, given the circumstances and the amount of apprehensions that have been made peacefully, more or less, even though it has to be done in the neighborhoods and on the streets with impeders and rioters and peaceful protesters, some of them, tracking them, doxing them, blocking the roads, running into them. They've held up pretty well. That doesn't excuse any lines that are crossed by law enforcement any more than when a civilian crosses a line. But the evidence that suggests this is, a lawless bunch of vigilantes operating under the color of law is belied by the evidence, I would argue. Greg in Rogers Park.
Hi, Dan. Dan, as I always say to you, thank you again for your hard work and getting up early to do your show. I was going to say that in other places in the country, they're not run by people like Tony Preifenko and Waltz and Fry and BLM Brandon and Jelly Belly. ICE is able to do their job to get these dangerous criminals off the streets and in custody and deported. So it's the politicians that send the message out to build a culture saying it's okay to go in and interfere with these people, and then you have situations like Saturday. So I put the blame on people like Preifenko and Jelly Belly,
Thanks for the call, Greg. Well, I mean, that's certainly a part of it. I mean, the unbelievable recklessness, the caricatures from politicians, JB and BJ here, Tampon Tim and Pajamas Boy Jacob Fry up there. I mean, this was Walls, right? And this is tepid compared to some of the characterizations he has lobbed in the direction of ICE.
We have got children in Minnesota hiding in their houses, afraid to go outside. Many of us grew up reading that story of Anne Frank. Somebody's going to write that children's story about Minnesota. And there's one person who can end this now.
It's a bunch of Anne Franks hiding from Nazis in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Really? Yeah, really. That's the characterization. That's what you're dealing with. And this is after he essentially presented himself as a 21st century General George Meade at the Battle of Gettysburg, fighting for the Union against the slave-holding South. The statements coming from these people are so wild, and I'm sure to the marginally connected to reality, radicalizing. And so you get people that do not have a real handle on impulse control pouring into the streets to demonstrate their lack of impulse control. And that's going to end well? Philip in Blue Island.
Good morning. The protesters are not professionals. The ICE agents with their 6 weeks of training are not professional or not proficient in what they're supposed to be doing. My question is, why are they pushing women into the snow when they're supposed to be there to pick up illegals, if you will, or undocumented, and they're supposed to be the violence of the most undocumented that they're supposed to be finding. They're supposed to be having lists of people that they're supposed to. So why are they on the front lines of protest instead of doing what they were designed or ordered or called to do. I don't understand. I feel it's like everybody's out of their calling. Everybody's, and most of them, again, they're not proficient. They're not professionals in crowd control. They're not professional. The ICE is not professional in policing. And, of course, the citizens, especially in Minnesota, what did they know about protesting? I mean, they did the George Floyd thing. But
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah, I know. That was mostly
big as
peaceful,
this
except the burning down of the police precinct. Right, I remember. Thanks for the call, Philip. So I addressed this, first of all, and again, just like I said before, just repeating the lines that have been fed to you, the training issue again. The woman who was pushed down, there was an attempt to de-escalate, push her back outside the perimeter. They wanted secure to conduct an operation. I mean, I'm not professional law enforcement, but, you only have to watch a few episodes of CHIPS or any other police show to pick up a few things. I mean, it's pretty basic, pretty commonsensical. And then resist. Pepper spray doesn't work. Move back. And then the intervention. First of all, there are professionals, and we've got manuals, we've got signal chat groups, we've got a bunch of stuff to talk about next hour. But how professional do you need to be, Philip, to know that if a law enforcement gives you a lawful order, you comply? There's no common sense. There's a moral indignation that people believe immunizes them from following the law, and it doesn't. Coming up at 6:06, we'll continue this discussion, fold in more of your calls. It is now 6 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
It's still stormy in the Northeast. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island. We can expect another up to 4 inches of snow to fall.
Fox's Brian Yennis is in Boston, where they got 16 inches so far.
There are now 13 states with at least a foot of snow on the ground from this storm, from New Mexico and Colorado through Illinois and Ohio, New York and Pennsylvania.
The snow and thick ice in many areas has left more than 800,000 homes and businesses without power this morning, a lot of them around Nashville. Scott Brooks with the Tennessee Valley Authority tells Fox.
We have crews that are out. The local power providers have crews that are out. Everybody on the ground trying to get the power restored as quickly as possible.
The storm's blamed for at least 9 deaths in several states, including Texas, where in Frisco, a teenager died while she was sledding, being pulled by a Jeep, and then the sled veered off and went into a tree. In Bangor, Maine, a private plane crashed during the storm last night. 8 people on board. No word if there are survivors.
There was a massive fire after that crash. It happened on takeoff. Visibility was about 3/4 of a mile, which is very low. Obviously snowy, windy conditions in Bangor, Maine at the time.
Fox Business Network Cheryl Kazonias. For commercial flights, there are 3,700 more canceled today. The protests rage on in Minneapolis over Saturday's shooting when a Border Patrol agent killed a protester, Alex Pretty. Democratic state officials demand an end to the immigration enforcement.
The federal government cannot trample over the prerogatives of the state.
That's State Attorney General Keith Ellison. He got a judge to order evidence be preserved in this hearing today. Deputy U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche tells Fox.
There's an ongoing investigation, as we've said, all weekend, and obviously we're not destroying evidence.
The Super Bowl is set.
Over the middle, Cooper Kupp, it's in! Touchdown, Seahawks!
That ended up the game-winning score for Seattle, beating the Los Angeles Rams 31-27 on Fox to win the NFC Championship. The Seahawks will play the Patriots. New England won the AFC title, beating the Broncos in a blizzard in Denver 10-7. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 0 degrees with a wind chill of -18 here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson have issued statements responding to the latest shooting death by ICE agents in Minneapolis. Pritzker called the agents involved in Saturday's incident as dangerous and unprofessional, while Johnson called for ICE to be abolished. Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino claims the agents fired defensive shots, saying 37-year-old ICU nurse Alex Jeffrey Pretty was interfering with agents as they worked to arrest a suspect and resisted when agents tried to disarm him. Travelers coming into and leaving out of Chicago's airport suffered significant delays and cancellations throughout the weekend. Winter Storm Fern creating havoc with snow and ice across the U.S., stranding travelers at some of the biggest airport hubs, including Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson, New York's LaGuardia, and of course O'Hare and Midway here in Chicago. And the Chicago Teachers Union says it's complied with the U.S. House Committee's request to release financial audits, but attorneys challenging the union say they're still reviewing the documents. Jim Talamonte has more.
Union leadership said they received notice that the Department of Labor was launching a compliance audit program the same day CTU complied with the House Committee on Education and Workforce's request. Angel Valencia, senior counsel for the Liberty Justice Center, said attorneys are reviewing the audits for union members who asked for them in October 2024.
The information that the union has produced in the past has just been a lot of very short, self-serving, self-drafted summaries of audits.
Valencia said the lawsuit is independent of the interest shown by the House Committee and the Department of Labor.
This report is a service of the AM 560 Advantage. Membership has its privileges, including early access to event tickets, exclusive contest opportunities, and special members-only content. Join today at 560theanswer.com/join. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Larry Elder explains a huge difference.
There's no love of people with whom you disagree. There's no compassion. There's hatred. Christians don't think that way. This is not what Jesus taught. But these are who these people are, which is why so much of the country is invested in their hatred of Donald Trump. All we can do is pray for them.
The Larry Elder Show, weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hello, this is Alistair Begg. In September of 2026, I'll be teaching the Bible as we cruise through the Norwegian fjords. I'd love for you to join me. Call 855-565-5519 or visit deeperfaithcruise.com.
Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
This President's Day, Pure Talk is honoring Jackson and Lincoln by offering unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Meanwhile, Big Wireless is honoring Ben Franklin by charging families hundreds of dollars for the same 5G coverage. What? Franklin wasn't even a president. Hang on to those Benjamins. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and save 50% off your first month. That's pound 250, Mike Rowe, to switch to an American wireless company that's truly unprecedented. Pure Talk.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, ETHOS, ethos.com/Mike.
When you can no longer handle your own home, Hearthstone Assisted Living at the Lutheran Home in Arlington Heights is here to help make life easier. Experience upscale living with comprehensive health services. We offer fine dining, engaging activities, available chaplains, weekly worship services, and quality amenities including a bistro, expansive library, and general store. For a limited time, mention WYLL for an additional discount. Call 847-595-5024 or visit LutheranLifeCommunities.org.
Salem News Channel, your go-to source for news and conservative opinion. We reveal how politics hits home, how your family, your freedoms, your way of life are debated, challenged, even regulated. Every day we cut through the noise, pitting nonsense against common sense. On every screen, in every home, Salem News Channel is across America.
Is your child tackling new challenges in math this year? Working hard to get ahead of the pack? Here's the good news. There's a secret weapon. Mathnasium, the authority on math education. With over 1,000 learning centers worldwide, we know what it takes to build real confidence in math. Here's what sets us apart. Expert instructors who teach each student individually. No cookie-cutter approach. No rushing through lessons. We create customized learning plans designed specifically for your child's needs, helping them achieve their academic goals, not just this semester, but all year long. Whether they're struggling to catch up or ready to excel, our proven methods work. Kids leave Mathnasium stronger in math, more confident in the classroom, and ready to handle whatever comes next. Visit Mathnasium today and discover why parents trust us with their child's math education. Mathnasium, where kids love math.
At AlmostFreeTeeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant-supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Starting off with a crash on the express lanes on the Dan Ryan. It's inbound between 59th Street and 47th Street. The accident blocks the left lane at 47th Street, but the main roadway looks great. Just 15 minutes inbound from 95th and Byrne Interchange. Outbound is 11. Also a little bit sluggish on the Bishop Ford inbound from 130th Street to the Dan Ryan. No major delays on the Stevenson. That looks great both ways from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. 23 inbound, 22 outbound. The Eisenhower is 14 minutes both ways from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 9 minutes in both directions on the Kennedy from Montrose to the Byrne Interchange, and you're doing great on the Edens, 15 minutes both ways from Lake Cook to Montrose. This report is a service of the AM 560 mobile app. Listen to the AM 560 on your smartphone or mobile device when you download the AM 560 mobile app at 560theanswer.com/mobile. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will be mostly sunny with brisk and very cold conditions reaching a high of 9. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with brisk and very cold weather, dropping to a low of 5 before temperatures rise into the lower teens. Tomorrow will bring low clouds, brisk winds, and bitterly cold temperatures with a high of 14. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering smart security systems to homes and businesses. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. I'm going to go back talking about the ice-involved shooting of Alex Preddy over the weekend in what was formerly Minneapolis, Minnesota. And the fallout and the implications and the rhetoric and what should be done next. I mentioned the Wall Street Journal editorial board calling for a pause of ICE operations in Minnesota. I reject that call. We'll take your calls as to whether or not you also reject that call. 312-642-5600, Chicago Morning Answer call and text line. But I want to go back to ICE Commander Gregory Bovino, who, in addition to a post-shooting press conference where he exercised the restraint that Kristi Noem did not, in not getting ahead of the facts as known. He also had this exchange, not afraid to go into the belly of the beast, this exchange on CNN with Dana Bash about the fundamental question here, whether or not, based on what we see, there is reason to believe that ICE agents had a reasonable fear for their safety such that lethal force was appropriate.
Sure, Dan, at first he was there in the scene. He was in the scene actively impeding and assaulting law enforcement to the point.
But that's not illegal. He wasn't
Dana,
impeding it. He was filming it, which is a legal thing to do in the United States of America.
Dana, let's don't freeze frame adjudicate this now. He was there for a reason, and that reason was to impede law enforcement to the point.
What evidence do you have of that?
And here's a good point, Dana, is the fact that de-escalation techniques were utilized during this action. Those de-escalation techniques, whether it was physically trying to remove them from that law enforcement scene, that active law enforcement scene in which law enforcement were going after a violent illegal alien, or the use of pepper spray, which is another de-escalation technique. Those techniques did not work. Officers always try to use the minimum amount of force necessary to either effect an arrest, which in this case was more than likely 18 U.S.C. 111, assault on a federal officer or
Where did he assault?
obstruct.
Where did he assault a federal officer in any of the video that you have seen? Because it looked to us from every angle, sir, that he was approached by them when he was helping another individual who was pushed down. What evidence do you have that he was assaulting any law enforcement?
Dana, we don't need a suspect's help in an active law enforcement scene.
When you say
we don't
suspect,
need his help.
what is
we
he
didn't ask
suspected
his
of?
help. That's an active law enforcement scene. He knew that was an active law enforcement scene, especially when the officers approached him, and it's very evident he did not need to be where he was. And he
when somebody
on his own to stay there.
So when somebody is pushed down and a person's instinct is to help that person, when somebody's pushed down by law enforcement, you're saying that you just stand back and let law enforcement do what they're doing? I mean, is that really human nature?
You know, Dana, every situation is different. What our officers are faced with here in Minneapolis are chaotic, very difficult and violent situations in which individuals, and this suspect is not the only one to bring a loaded weapon to a riot. The situations are chaotic and ever-changing. Follow directions for law enforcement. Don't inject yourself knowingly beforehand into a law enforcement situation.
It's remarkable to listen to Dana Bash. I mean, you want to talk about seeing what you want to see, or just like the sentimental silliness of these people. Where did he assault an officer? It's just a human thing when you see somebody pushed down by a law enforcement officer to want to intervene on their behalf. Is that right? So, as I mentioned last hour, put this in any other context. If you see a law enforcement officer grappling with a suspect, your instinct is to get involved on behalf of the suspect? What is he suspected of? No, Dana. We're talking about the law enforcement officer engaged with another suspect, and he intervenes on her behalf and gets in a tussle with ICE that escalates to the ground, where he apparently resisted. Can you follow along? I mean, it's a human reaction to get into a fight with law enforcement. Is that what you do when you're pulled over? Or you see somebody pulled over? Or if you saw somebody in a fight with an officer, is that what you would do, Dana? Or you'd call in, somebody who would do it for you? What are you talking about? You're complaining and accusing ICE of executing street justice while you're advocating for street justice. 312-642-5600, Chicago Morning Answer call-in and text line. I mean, this is, what you're dealing with. People that just have no capacity to critically think, or are feigning no capacity for political reasons. I don't know which, doesn't matter, leads to the same place. Fred in his truck, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
I believe that there are two pink elephants in the room. First of all, these are useful idiots by the Democratic Party that are being put up to this. You don't see this happening in red states. And the reason they have to create as much havoc to make this operation unpopular because of the midterm elections. If the Republicans lose the midterm elections, that'll open the door for the Democratic Party to go back to what they had for 4 years, where they could do anything they want and get away with it. The second of all, for all these violent protesters, and that's what they are, they're violent. You do not impede law enforcement agents. I drive a big truck. I got pulled into the scale house and ICE was there. They asked me a few questions. I had to show documentation, and they sent me on my way. I did not fight with them. I did not try to push them down or get pushed down. When you put these officers, what are they supposed to do? These people that are protesters are paid. Why do we not cut off the money supply? We know who the hell is paying these people. And why don't we go after some of these politicians They're committing treason. Bring them up, lock them up.
Thanks for the call, Fred. Well, I mean, some people did get arrested last week that staged that incursion into the city's church in St. Paul. 3 arrests, not Don Lemon. And supposedly, there's been a lot of talk about following the money. Kash Patel, Kristi Noem, Pam Bondi have all talked about following the money when it comes to these professional agitators. And again, this is, mass arrest. This is, you got to make cases against individual people and individual organizations. And that you got to do it in a painstaking way to make sure you have cases that will hold up in court. That's what they say they're doing. That's what they say they are doing. And all the citizen reporting here, which has been very helpful. Over the weekend, you've got, by the way, businesses boarding up in preparation for all these peaceful protesters. Gee, I guess those businesses have been here before not so long ago, and they know not to believe the rhetoric of the people they've chosen to represent them in high office, which is ironic. They're boarding up, but it's all peaceful protesters. That stands to reason. Signal groups that include state officials in terms of organizing, the organized monitoring and following, and in some cases impeding. They're organizing high schoolers to protest. There's a 4-block autonomous zone that has been stood up by these peaceful protesters. They've let state local police, who we're supposed to defer to here. And I understand that to some extent they may be overwhelmed, but they wouldn't be so overwhelmed if they didn't have sanctuary city politicians telling them not to cooperate with the feds. So there's an autonomous zone there. National Guard gets activated. They're passing out coffee, hot chocolate, and donuts to professional agitators and some awfuls from the suburbs. Meanwhile, they've given control of 4 blocks of the city over to these professional agitators. There are manuals that are circulating. Have you seen what's going on in Portland, oh, by the way? And the rioting on the streets there with tear gas canisters being thrown back and forth between professional agitators, impeders, rioters, goons, thugs, droogs, whichever term you prefer, and police, who previously turned over their streets to Antifa back during the Summer of Love. I could go on and on. This is this idea that this is all or even substantially organic, and it's just this collective moral indignation that has filled the hearts and minds of the populace on behalf of the poor, downtrodden souls yearning to breathe free. That is a fairy tale. Mike, Lake Forest.
Morning, Van. Love your show.
Thank you.
And ICE is not stupid. They're not hiring guys without experience. They're hiring veteran, seasoned officers like myself who are sick and tired of working under governors like Pritzker and mayors like Johnson who love thugs and release violent criminals back to the streets. Many of us are running to ICE.
Thanks for the call, Mike. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. It's good to get law enforcement perspective. Which, it's interesting, too, all these legislative measures in Illinois. Laura Fine, communist from Glenview, running for Congress to replace the communist Calamity Jan. Maryland, at least one other state I'm blanking on right now. Legislative measures introduced to prohibit ICE officers from ever working for state and local. Again, that tells you what about the leadership of your state and local? Because there's a lot of talk in response to what happened. Get out of here, ICE. State and local can handle it. Right, with the autonomous zone and the violence that was happening at that St. Paul hotel where these goons and droogs and thugs and mooks were trying to break in because there were ICE law enforcement personnel allegedly staying there. And the locals were trying to push them back from breaking into the hotel. I don't think any arrests were made, though. And I don't blame the locals because they're overwhelmed. Right. because the civilian political class has turned over your city to the mob. We've seen this before. I mean, come on. And you have the the lieutenant governor, this goof, Peggy Flanagan. I mean, her and Walz, what a couple of, just, they're stooges who complement each other perfectly, I should say. Peggy Flanagan, she was the one that was wearing a hijab over the holidays in solidarity with the Somalis when the fraud stories were at fever pitch. This is what she had to say at a town hall, and then subsequently in a video that she posted. Tim Walz, right-hand girl, his Girl Friday here.
We are just in the community of Alexandria, where the event that we had that was similar to this one was interrupted by a bunch of phones going off and people having to leave because they are trained legal observers. Being trained legal observers, I don't know if anybody's gone through that training here. If you have, I appreciate it and would encourage you to do so.
Remember that phrase. Here's another one. That's right up there with peaceful protests. All these trained legal observers. These are professional people providing stewardship to the rabble to make sure it remains peaceful. And they're doing a bang-up job, pun intended. And then she said this.
Our neighbors are being disappeared. P.S. Without due process, it is just called kidnapping. Then show up and use your voice. Put your body on the line.
Put your body on the line because your neighbors are being kidnapped. Is that insightful from your lieutenant governor? You want to hear a sampling of those trained legal observers who graduated from the Peggy Flanagan School of Training Legal Observers? That's right up there with the Quality Leering Center. Graduates like this.
Just to be clear, we are well past ICE at this point. It is now fight ICE.
Fight ICE. Sounds peaceful. How about this guy? Like within about a foot of the face of two officers who, by the way, did nothing, nor should they have. But does this give you a little bit of insight into the mentality you're dealing with? Another proud graduate of the Peggy Flanagan Trained Legal Observer School.
Shoot us in the face! Shoot me in the head! Why don't you shoot me in the head? You cowards! You're cowards! I'm right here! Kill me!
And another.
Hey, so they're gonna kill us anyway, so I think maybe we should just mob them. I mean, I don't... If you comply, they're going to shoot you. If you try to leave, they're going to shoot you. If you're already on the ground, they're going to unload into you even though you're already dead in broad daylight. They are executing people in the streets, and there will be justification. The government is going to try to justify this somehow. What are we supposed to do? And all those agents will just be spirited away and not face any consequences. This is absolutely insane. We have to do something. We have to, as bystanders, mob them. Full American Revolution, hiding in trees. I don't know.
Another young awful, obviously a legal scholar.
Arrest her. Put her in handcuffs and detain her as an enemy of the state. Detain her the way that Trump seems to use all of that
Kristi Noem.
Legality for his side. Just do the same. Why are we playing with the same rules? Arrest her. Why is this so complicated? Put the bitch in handcuffs and say she's an enemy and domestic terrorist. Switch it around. It's not that complicated. Call her to Senate, arrest her.
Call Senate, arrest her. Peggy Flanagan's graduating class of 2025 from the Peggy Flanagan School of Trained Legal Observer. I think Chris Mays, who's the Attorney General for the state of Arizona, Yeah, the actual Attorney General. I think she's also a graduate of the Peggy Flanagan School of Trained Legal Observing.
Bram, is that we're a stand your ground state. We have one of the most expansive stand your ground laws in the entire country that rivals even Florida. We also have a lot of guns in Arizona. We're a gun culture in this state. And, it's kind of a recipe for disaster because you have these masked federal officers with very little identification, sometimes no identification, wearing plain clothes and masks. And we have a stand your ground law that says that if you reasonably believe that your life is in danger and you're in your house or your car or on your property, that you can defend yourself with lethal force.
So that's sending the message unmistakably that you can hide behind the stand your ground law to use lethal force against an ICE agent. You're the Attorney General in the state of Arizona. It's astounding. Does the Arizona law, Attorney General Mays, allows you to stand your ground against law enforcement carrying out lawful operations? You can use lethal force against federal law enforcement officers when they're doing enforcement and recovery operations, for example. Are you out of your mind? Yeah, apparently. Or just have reckless disregard for the lives of your constituents and federal law enforcement officers, obviously. Stand your ground law. ICE officers aren't sneaking into somebody's bedroom through the window and not identifying themselves when they're conducting operations. And they're bringing overwhelming force to those operations as well, because this is not supposed to be an even fight, of course. No operations, particularly those that have become this dangerous because of these professional mobsters and those that facilitate their mobbery. Of course they're going to bring overwhelming force. And you're going to be confused. You think you can just open fire because Chris Mays says you have a right to be fearful under the black letter of the Stand Your Ground law in Arizona? I mean, it's the things that are coming out of the mouths of these neo-Marxist politicians across the country are so astounding. Michael, Southside.
Good morning, Dan. Thank you for taking my call. I find it really, really strange that the far-left anti-gun crowd is defending a guy who brought a gun to a demonstration.
100%. Yep. All of a sudden, they're big 2A advocates. It was his right to carry a gun. Aren't you a gun banner? Yeah, I am. 100%. Of course, that's where the hypocrisy is. I mean, I criticized the hypocrisy or the ignorance of Kash Patel early in the show, and I stand by it. The idea that because he was exercising his lawful Second Amendment right of self-protection, that he was inherently violent because he had a gun that he was legally allowed to possess? No, absolutely not. But I mean, so that's a problem. But the other problem, all these gun banners that all of a sudden have no problem with, quote unquote, peaceful protesters walking around armed in this context, because of course the ends justify the means. Now it doesn't. Whatever, yeah, do whatever you want, because we're fighting Nazis, don't you know, Michael? That's what the governor says. All these Anne Franks hiding in their attics, hiding in people's attics, because it's a civil war. Put your body on the line. Fight ICE. Rick, Northwest Side.
Morning. I appreciate your clarity about this whole mess. I'd say pray for peace, but too many people capitalizing on this. One thing that bothered me was these commentators going, and he had 2 fully loaded magazines.
Right.
If I could afford a handgun and a permit, I might carry a magazine. And why would I carry an empty one? It's probably going to be the next gun control law. Only carry empty magazines.
Yeah, guns are fine, but no bullets. Yeah, thanks for the call, Rick. No, I mean, it's 100% true. When I carry, I have an extra magazine. I mean, I have a magazine that's full, and I have an extra magazine in my car, wherever I'm lawfully allowed to do so, which is pretty much everywhere in the state of Florida. Yeah, the whole gun rap from Patel and Noam was totally outrageous and needs to be walked back. Coming up at 6:36, we got another angle here to at least finish off this discussion for now, and that is that local and state. I started it, but there's more to develop, including hearing from the the police chief of what used to be Minneapolis, Brian O'Hara, who's become a national figure along with Walz and Fry over this. Got to discuss that because, of course, the Obamas have weighed in, and no discussion is complete without getting the opinions of Barack and Michelle. We know this. 6:36. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 2 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson have issued statements regarding the latest shooting death by ICE agents in Minneapolis. Pritzker called the agents involved in Saturday's incident as dangerous and unprofessional, while Johnson called for ICE to be abolished. Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino claims the agents fired defensive shots, saying 37-year-old ICU nurse Alex Jeffrey Preddy was interrupting with the agents as they were working to arrest a suspect, and then he resisted when the agents tried to disarm him. And 2 people have been hurt following an apartment fire in the West Ridge neighborhood early this morning. According to reports, 4 other residents were rescued from the building. Officials say the blaze started on the first floor, firefighters needing to use their ladders to rescue the folks inside. Cause of that blaze under investigation. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again, not at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. With medical insurance, you could save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
On February 24th, President Trump will deliver his State of the Union address to Congress.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
And AM 560 The Answer is throwing a viewing party, and you're invited to join us for dinner at the Meridian Banquets and Conference Center in Rolling Meadows. Enjoy dinner before the speech, and then watch the speech with AM 560's Dan Proft, Sean Thompson, Jeannie Ives, Amy Jacobson, and John Anthony. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/party. Sponsored in part by Stephen A. Leahy with Opum Tax Advocates.
Whether you are old or young, no one likes to lose money. The market is at an all-time high. How much risk does your portfolio really have in it? Are you worried that you could lose your hard-earned money? Call TJ Stearns in Arlington Heights at 800-640-2256 for your free risk report. Call right now and we will include a full analysis of your portfolio. Don't wait until it's too late. Call TJ Stearns, a local and longtime sponsor on AM 560. Call 800-640-2256. Call now and tell him AM 560 sent you.
That's cold! Don't get stuck with a cold shower this winter. Give CenterGuard Plumbing a call. Get a new 40-gallon water heater installed for just $1,195 for standard installation, or a 50-gallon heater for $1,295 standard installation. A proud new sponsor of AM 560, CenterGuard is offering specials on new water heaters. Old man winter is here. Don't get stuck in the cold, and the same can happen to your water heater. If you're having hot water issues or your water heater's over 8 years old, take advantage of this winter special today. CenterGuard Plumbing is Chicagoland's same-day water heater experts. Call before noon and they can schedule your repair or install the same day on in-stock water heaters. They'll even haul away your old one no charge. You're only a text away from install today. Call 847-406-8883. Mention AM 560 to receive winter special pricing. That's 847-406-8883. Call or text 847-406-8883 or visit CenterGuardPlumbing.com.
Wealth Health Radio. The biggest fears that people have is, do I have enough money to retire?
Retirement doesn't have to be complicated.
To make sure that you're going through retirement with confidence.
Learn principles of income planning.
There's a lot of different facets that you need to take into consideration when you're retiring.
Tune into Wealth Health Radio with Joe Murphy, noon to 1 p.m. Sundays on AM 560 The Answer.
You know what really keeps me up at night? It's the criminals feel more and more bold. They have no fear of any consequences because there are none. So I did what anyone with a family should do. I called Goldilocks. They're not just some cookie-cutter security company. Goldilocks has been protecting Chicagoland homes and businesses for 4 decades, 40 years. And they actually listen. Their technician comes out to the house. He takes a look at what you need to make your house a smart home with a security system you can monitor from anywhere. It's built specifically for me and my family. Motion sensors, smart locks, cameras, monitoring, all customized. I don't trust anybody in Illinois to protect my family. I do it, and I did it by calling Goldilocks. I trust Goldilocks to keep my house, my property, and my family safe. Tell them Sean Thompson sent you, and Goldilocks will include 3 months free monitoring with any new installation. Call Goldilocks at 708-899-5600. That's 708-899-5600. Or visit them online at GoldilocksInc.com.
The voice for the new right, charting a new path forward for American conservatism. It's the Josh Hammer Show, now available on the Salem Podcast Network.
Is this going to explode into 2020? For a while, it looked like that was not going to be the case. Increasingly, I am less confident. They're not stopping. They are being aided and abetted by willful idiot, neo-Confederate insurrectionist politicians like the coward in the Twin Cities, Tim Walz.
Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
File now with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They'll find every credit and deduction or your money back. File in the Credit Karma app.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. You're going to need to warm up your car this morning. It is cold out there in Chicagoland. Traffic is cooperating, though, for the most part. On the Edens, it's 14 minutes both ways from Lake Hook to Montrose. The Kennedy is light, 8 minutes in both directions from Montrose to the Byrne Interchange. You've got 13 minutes in both directions on the Eisenhower from Wolf to the old post office. The Stevenson, that's 24 minutes inbound from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore Drive, 22 minutes on the outbound side, and the Dan Ryan is 12 minutes in, 10 minutes out from 95th Street to the Byrne Interchange. This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Pro Savings Days are on at Lowe's. Get up to 35% off select major appliances and up to 50% off select ladders. Don't wait. Shop Lowe's Pro Savings Days deals today. Valid through 1/23. Selection varies by location while supplies last. See associate or Lowe's.com for details. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will bring mostly sunny skies with brisk and very cold conditions. The high will reach 9 degrees. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with brisk and very cold weather as temperatures drop to a low of 5 degrees before rising into the lower teens. Tomorrow will be characterized by low clouds and brisk, bitterly cold conditions with a high of 14 degrees. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, talking about the fallout, talking about the actual shooting of Alex Preedy over the weekend and what was formerly Minneapolis and the fallout from it, and where the Trump administration should or should not take operations like Metro Surge in urban centers around the country, particularly urban centers where the state and local officials are adverse to your operations, sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, lorded over by people like Field Marshal Tim, Pajamas Boy Jake, Peggy Flanagan, she of the Peggy Flanagan School of Training Legal Observers. Jake Fry, Pajamas Boy, he had this to say in response to Saturday's shooting death of Alex Preedy. How many more?
How many more residents, how many more Americans need to die or get badly hurt for this operation to end? How many more lives need to be lost before this administration realizes that a political and partisan narrative is not as important as American values. How many times must local and national leaders must plead with you, Donald Trump, to end this operation and recognize that this is not creating safety in our city?
Well, I'll give you credit there, Pajamas Boy. Yeah, at least you're consistent on this, as are your fellow travelers in Minnesota and elsewhere. You are always on the side of people breaking the law. How many more? How many more? Are you asking how many more people have to be killed by a person in this country illegally? How many more people have to be violated in any number of ways? The rapists and the child molesters. You know, the number of violent criminals in this country illegally, we know from the previous administration's data that Texas Congresswoman Anthony Gonzalez got. Number in the hundreds of thousands. Hundreds of thousands. And you're asking how many more people who break the law during a federal law enforcement operation are going to be killed? How many more illegal immigrants who resist arrest and get in a street fight with an ICE officer where both the suspect and the officer are shot? How many more times is that going to happen? Hopefully not one more time. But to the extent it happens, it is because of ultimately the errors in judgment of the people committing the crimes. And secondarily, the demagoguery of politicians like you who whip the ill-informed and the marginally connected to reality into a frenzy. And push all these people with no impulse control on the streets to, under the belief that their misplaced sense of moral rectitude allows them to do whatever they want in furtherance of what they have been radicalized to believe. How about that conversation? How many more? I mean, how insulting must it be for an angel family like my friend Joe Abraham to listen to Jacob Fry and JB and BJ, who have the same rap in this state, talk about how many more, when it comes to people who violated the law and who are impeding federal law enforcement operations, as compared to people they don't talk about ever. The Katie Abrahams and so many more, the Laken Rileys and Rachel Moores, so many more who have been murdered by people in this country illegal. There's never a how many more for them, for U.S. citizens slaughtered by people in this country illegally. It's just how many more for people here illegally and people who are unlawfully running interference for people here illegally. It's a party with a real sickness. 312-642-5600 is the Chicago Morning Answer call-in and text line. Police Chief Brian O'Hara on with Maggie Brennan, Face the Nation. That's always an illuminating discussion, anything led by Maggie Brennan. And I'll tell you, this O'Hara guy, boy, I've said it before that he is a disgrace to law enforcement. Embarrassing. And he continues to be. It's remarkable, too. I mean, he parrots the lines. I mean, I guess he's protecting his job and pension and so forth. But, boy, you would think there were limits. Larry Snelling drew some lines to at least maintain his integrity, even having to operate under BJ and JB. Not Brian O'Hara. This is a statement regarding the investigation into the Alex Preedy shooting. The outcome doesn't matter. Really? We demand an investigation, and then you have the police chief say, it doesn't matter.
Well, I've seen the videos just as thousands of people around the country have, and the videos speak for themselves. I think it's deeply concerning, the things that are being said. This is an individual that was a city resident. It appears that he was present, exercising his First Amendment rights to record law enforcement activity, and also exercising his Second Amendment rights to lawfully be armed in a public space in the city. So I think very obviously there are serious questions that are being raised, and I think the greater issue is, even if there is an investigation that ultimately proves that at the time of the shooting it was legally justified, I don't think that even matters at this point, because there is so much outrage and concern around what is happening in the city.
Outrage greater than the rule of law. Got it. It doesn't. You have a police chief saying the outcome of the investigation doesn't matter. The truth doesn't matter, because there's so much outrage, people won't listen to the truth. And so I'm not even going to bother trying to obtain it and speak it. Okay. You're a constructive force. And then he went on to, again, basically take the position of those on the street.
If your goal was to go after fraud, that's...
People have had enough. This is the third shooting now in less than 3 weeks. The Minneapolis Police Department went the entire year last year recovering about 900 guns from the street, arresting hundreds and hundreds of violent offenders, and we didn't shoot anyone. And now this is the second American citizen that's been killed. It's the third shooting within 3 weeks. People have been speaking out, saying that this was going to happen again. And I think everyone is kind of waiting for folks on both sides to come together and just figure this thing out. This is not sustainable. This police department has only 600 police officers. We are stretched incredibly thin. This is taking an enormous toll trying to manage all of this chaos on top of having to be the police department for a major city. It's too much.
Chief O'Hare, a couple of follow-ups. So when you and Minneapolis police were conducting their day-to-day affairs over the last year, did you have thousands of mobsters running around, filming you, chasing you, blocking traffic, impeding you, attacking you, throwing water bottles that, ice and other projectiles at you, biting your fingers off? Vandalize? Did you have to board up businesses? Were businesses feeling like they needed to board up their businesses because Miami police were out enforcing the law and taking people who had broken the law into custody? Was all that happening? So do you think the context, my point is, do you think the context here is a little bit different? And golly gee, God, what could both sides come together? What would that look like? What's a possible solution here? If we employed, the Occam's razor approach. Oh, right. What they're doing in places like Texas and Florida. State and local cooperating with Fed. Do you see this happening even in leftist cities like Austin? In Texas? In Tallahassee or Orlando in Florida? Why not? What's the variable, Chief? You put your finger on it? And by the way, as I said, those locals, let the locals do their job. J.D. Vance told this story about his stop in Minneapolis last week. This is J.D. Vance posting on X. A couple of off-duty ICE and CBP officers were going to dinner in Minneapolis. They were doxxed and their location revealed, and the restaurant was then mobbed. The officers were locked in the restaurant. Local police refused to respond to their pleas for help, as they've been directed by local authorities. Eventually, their fellow federal agents came to their aid. This is just a taste of what's happening in Minneapolis because state and local officials refuse to cooperate with immigration enforcement. They've created the chaos so they can have moments like yesterday where someone tragically dies and politicians get to grandstand about the evils of enforcing the border. The solution is staring everyone in the face. Yeah, of course it is. It's just like the stand-down order that was given in Chicago when those ICE officers asked for help from the locals. Yeah, the locals. How's it going? How's it going with the locals? Did you see the vandalism nearby storefronts near the Alex Pretty Vigil, Kill ICE, spray painted on windows and so forth, F ICE. You've heard from those graduates of the Peggy Flanagan School of Trained Lawful Observers. The locals have this under control. Right, just like you did 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Right, Chief? You think you're not dealing with the same people? Substantially the same people? Certainly the same disposition. Aren't you, Chief? Mike and Hammond, John Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, Dan. Thanks for taking my call. This police chief is one of the biggest parts of the problem. I mean, good grief, they refuse to help out, and they're going to complain about the results they get. The mayor, the governor, the police chief, and Dan, how many of the hundreds and hundreds of violent criminals did they pick up that were illegal immigrants and let right back out on the street? He didn't say that.
Thanks for the call, Mike. Right. And I mean, we had in the first couple of weeks of our Metro surge, they had picked up more than 1,000 people in that region in the country illegally. And you saw them. But Trump was holding up mugshots and thumbnail sketches on their backgrounds at that press availability he did last week. Nobody wants to talk about those. Well, not these people don't. Oh, and by the way, just again, the locals. Okay. Court filings revealed those goons that invaded that church in St. Paul. You know, the city's church. When Don Lemon was acting as a journalist, don't you know? Screaming at people. It was worse than that. And it was worse than just driving people from their house of worship. According to court filings, they also blocked the stairs so parents couldn't get to their children. Even yelled at the kids' faces, "Do you know your parents are Nazis?" That's a direct quote from the court filings. "Daddy, I thought you were going to die," one child panicked. How quickly were the locals on scene there? And I'm sorry, who moved to prosecute them? The 3 individuals that have been taken into custody and charged? The locals? Marty in Naperville.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Thanks for taking my call. This Purdy is a perfect example of why there should be gun control. He's legal, yes, but you've got to use your head. You cannot go in. First of all, he's going to a peaceful protest with a weapon. Even though you can carry a weapon, doesn't mean you always should. And he should have been trained to know that, but of course he wasn't. And number two, what doesn't anybody put this together that all this is happening on top of this Somali stuff with this money? I mean, they're just useful idiots, Dan, and they keep falling for this stuff, and but about the gun control, again, to get back to that, he's a perfect example. He should, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And he wasn't properly trained knowing.
No, he's got a permit. No, wrong. He has no criminal background. He got a permit lawfully. And he made a terrible error in judgment, and it was the unlawful act of intervening between police and suspect. You're doing what the left does, which is to animate an inanimate object. Yes, just because you can doesn't mean you should. But the error in judgment was, or the unlawful act is the only thing that matters here. And the unlawful act was impeding an officer as he attempted to detain a suspect or neutralize a suspect, and then resisting arrest, apparently. Brian, Evansville, Indiana.
Yes, I was just telling your engineer, when you listen to Waltz and Fry, those are Jefferson Davis speeches. I'm finding out a lot of those states are willing to die and fight the federal government over their illegal immigrants. It didn't got that bad. And another thing, what's the difference between the midterms and when I voted for Trump in 2024? It's at a point now, we don't respect politicians unless they the ones we voted for. I think the country in real trouble. We We are willing to fight each other over illegal immigrants now. But thanks for hearing me.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate the call. Tony, Downers Grove.
Dan, I was working from home on Saturday, and I watched about 5 hours of this stuff. The incendiary, inflammatory rhetoric, not just by Frey and Walz, but the administration next to them, and the lies. The local support and the state police in the first hour and a half, 2 hours almost, when protesters were fending off tear gas, there was not one, maybe one, state police car that came in to intervene. And then I have to hear Walz talk about they have to clean up the mess that ICE leaves. And we're losing the messaging on this. I think it's orchestrated. And we said last week it was time for Trump to get out in front and talk about the economy. They need to get out and talk about this on a daily basis and walk through the ABCs, because too many people need the ABCs explained to them, because we're just losing the message here.
Thanks for the call, Tony. Well, I think that's why Trump did the press avail and focused part of it on this. I think that's why Vance was in Minneapolis last week. I think you're going to hear more on this. And I think, actually, we'll get to hopefully a little bit later in the show on the polling, because don't let what's happening on the ground lead you to believe that everybody is buying what Walz and Fry and O'Hara are selling. We'll get to that. But at the top of the 7 o'clock hour, we'll move to, we can talk about this in part, potentially with the prospect that this may lead Trump to invoke the Insurrection Act, which we have not discussed yet. We'll get Stephen Bucci's review on that, as well as the ratcheting up of rhetoric, of saber-rattling, and perhaps tariffs on our friends in strange Brewland. Trump none too happy with Mark Carney in Canada, as he so communicated in Davos last week. We'll discuss it all with the Heritage Foundation's Stephen Bucci at 7:07, and it's now 7 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
23 inches of snow. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That is the biggest total in the massive storm measured in Pennsylvania. There's at least a foot of snow in a dozen other states and a lot of ice across the South.
Been a very difficult situation in our state. I will say that. We've had a truly historic storm.
Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, his state has the most power outages still this morning out of the 800,000 homes and businesses without electricity. And Lee tells Fox it's tough on crews with ice-covered trees.
Very dangerous situations. These limbs are falling down every day and every minute.
Driving remains difficult, too, from Texas to New England. Fox's Rich Edson's in Washington, D.C.
Walking around here isn't exactly like walking through the snow. It's walking on top of the snow. That's because of that layer of ice that sits on top of it. It's a big mess to try to remove from roads and sidewalks, but they are trying here. The plows are out. Number of stores and transit all trying to get back on track here on this Monday.
The storm is blamed for at least 9 deaths, including a teenager killed in a sledding accident in Texas. Her sled was being pulled by a Jeep at the time. There could be more deaths in Bangor, Maine, where a small plane went down last night in snowy conditions, then caught fire.
8 people were on board the private aircraft when it crashed around 7:45 local time on Sunday evening. Fox 26 Houston reports that the tail number of the plane is linked to a Houston, Texas law firm. There is no word on the conditions of those on board.
That's Fox's Tanya J. Powers. For those trying to take flights as the storm wanes, it's still difficult at airports. Another 3,800 cancellations. Yesterday, there were more than 11,000 flights grounded, the most since early COVID times, March 30th, 2020. The anti-ICE protests continue in Minnesota. Angry over Saturday's shooting that left protester Alex Preddy dead, Democrats demand federal agents leave and that evidence from the shooting be preserved, which a judge ordered before a hearing today. Deputy U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche tells Fox.
We're going to go to court to say exactly what we're doing, which is, of course, we're investigating. We always investigate any conduct like this, any shooting like this. And
America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 2 degrees. It feels like it's negative 15 here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. A minor Amtrak derailment is causing delays for commuters. BNSF and SWS customers may experience platform arrival delays at Chicago Union Station. Chicago's Inspector General says she hopes there's an urgency to correct mistakes after the city paid $26.5 million in overtime to potentially ineligible employees. Jim Talamonte explains.
The inspector's office found the overtime was paid to workers in 24 departments and city agencies from 2020 to 24. Mayor Brandon Johnson said the Department of Finance has taken corrective action.
Obviously, it's critical that we eliminate any of the redundancies or any repayment errors to ensure that every single tax dollar is accounted for.
Inspector General Deborah Witzberg appreciated the responses from the Departments of Human Resources and Finance.
The responses that the city sent in 2013 were also thoughtful and productive, and here we are 13 years later. So is there a sense of urgency? I hope so. I think the city is in unprecedented budget times. I hope that that is kind of a catalyst to prompt action.
Flight cancellations are continuing today in the wake of Winter Storm Fern. More than 11,000 flights were canceled at airports across the country on Sunday. Flight cancellations at some of the largest hubs in the nation, Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson, New York's LaGuardia, and of course O'Hare and Midway here in Chicago, have stranded planes and flight crews, creating a ripple effect that's expected to last over the next several days. Airlines say they're working hard to bring in extra staff to accommodate passengers, and most major airlines are offering affected passengers the option to change flights without penalties. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again, not at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. With medical insurance, you could save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
I'm Jeannie Ives. And I'm Amy Jacobson. Join us for The Real Story beginning Monday, February 2nd from 11 to noon, Monday through Friday. We'll bring you the real information from Springfield, Chicago, and beyond. We'll expose the lies and misinformation from the politicians and the media. Listen to us on the station or online at 560theanswer.com. You can watch us live on Breakthrough Ideas Facebook page or Breakthrough Ideas YouTube channel. The Real Story begins on Monday, February 2nd at 11 a.m.
Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
Listen, I'm going to be straight with you. Pain doesn't just hurt your body, it cripples your life. I know this because I've seen it with people I care about. If joint pain is holding you back, start the new year by doing something different. There's a way to get real relief without surgery and without putting your life on pause. But you have to take that first step and contact my friends at QC Kinetics. They provide regenerative treatments that help your body repair the areas that are causing pain. I've talked to people who've been through this. These are real results. Achy knees, hips, shoulders, wherever it hurts, instead of facing surgery that sidelines you for months, QC Kinetics treatments happen in the office. Simple procedures that deliver big, life-changing results. January is supposed to be your clean slate month, so make it one. Stop managing the pain and start solving it. Call now to learn more and tell them Dan Proft, that's me, sent you when you do. The number 312-827-6261. That's 312-827-6261. Call QC Kinetics to start the year right. 312-827-6261.
This President's Day, Pure Talk is honoring Jackson and Lincoln by offering unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Meanwhile, Big Wireless is honoring Ben Franklin by charging families hundreds of dollars for the same 5G coverage. What? Franklin wasn't even a president. Hang on to those Benjamins. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and save 50% off your first month. That's pound 250, Mike Rowe, to switch to an American wireless company that's truly unprecedented. Pure Talk.
My name is Whitney Allen. I am a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought in a million years we'd have to use life insurance. The unexpected happened. With Ethos, it is so fast and easy. It's 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage through Ethos.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term.
Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Does your company exhibit at trade shows? Are your show costs rising? Not getting the return you expected? At Old Salt Displays, we turn those challenges into opportunities. As a veteran-owned company in the Midwest, we know what it takes to stand out. Whether you need a pop-up banner or a complete custom environment, we've got the expertise to make your brand shine. We use American-made, modular, reusable displays to keep costs low and ensure faster fulfillment and on-time delivery. Big impact, small footprint. That's the Old Salt way. We do it all: design, creation, shipping, storage, and show services. From concept to convention floor, we handle everything so you can focus on what you do best: connecting with customers. Make your next show a success by calling Old Salt Displays at 920-226-8958. Again, that's 920-226-8958 or visit oldsaltdisplays.com. Your booth, your brand, done right.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Still in great shape on the Edens from Lake Cook to Montrose, about 16 minutes both ways. The Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Burn Interchange, 13 minutes in. Outbound is 9. The northbound Tri-State starting to get a little bit slow approaching the Eisenhower. 20 minutes inbound on the Eisenhower from Wolf to the old post office. Outbound is 18. You've got 34 minutes inbound on the Stevenson from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. Outbound is 36. 20 minutes inbound on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange. Outbound is 12. The express lanes are starting to slow down heading towards the Stevenson and the Bishop Ford inbound on those breaks from 130th Street to the Dan Ryan. This report is a service of the daily podcast of Chicago's Morning Answer and the Sean Thompson Show. Hear both shows with limited commercials when you subscribe for free to the daily podcast at 560theanswer.com/podcast. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will bring mostly sunny skies with brisk and very cold conditions. The high will reach 9 degrees. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with brisk and very cold weather as temperatures drop to a low of 5 degrees before rising into the lower teens. Tomorrow will be characterized by low clouds and brisk, bitterly cold conditions with a high of 14 degrees. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Before we get on to the substance of things, I was remiss. My sister texted me last week to give a shout out to a guy who listens to the show every morning, and I forgot to do that. So to John Simpson from Montgomery, a happy belated 40th birthday, because I forgot last week. John Simpson from Montgomery, 40th birthday. Happy birthday to you, and thank you for listening to the show. 40 years old, good to have some people, 40 and under listening to it. It's good to note. Okay. So for John and everybody else, let's talk a little bit more about what we've been talking about, get some perspective from somebody with an eye towards national security, because that's certainly part of the conversation when it comes to federal law enforcement. And again, as we were discussing, the state and locals have this, although they're sanctuary states and cities, so they don't have this because there's no interest in removing people who are in this country illegally in Minnesota or in Illinois or in New York or in California or in New Jersey or in Maryland. So they don't have this. But even more to the point, the perception they ever have control of their cities and states is a facade. We saw it play out 6 years ago now, a little less than 6 years ago, in the Summer of Love. As I said earlier in the show, the same people that would burn down a police precinct in Minneapolis, as they did almost 6 years ago, are out in the streets now trying to impede ICE officers and assaulting them and biting off fingers and so forth. Literally. Sort of important context to the shooting on Saturday. In addition to that, you want to talk about repeats? How about an autonomous zone in the center of the city? Fox News reporting.
A few thousand protesters have joined from a vigil they were holding, and you can see these young people in the shiny vests. They've actually stopped traffic. They're pretty well organized. They've got walkie-talkies, and they replace each other. But basically, they've stopped traffic. So you can see this is expanding now from just one block where the shooting took place. Now it's moving out into other blocks. We were going to pull out of our car, and they said, oh, no, you can't go. So you have people in shiny vests really directing traffic, controlling the streets, saying who can go where. No, you can't drive away because I'm in a shiny vest, and I'm telling you you can't. So We can see who's in control not just of one street where the shooting took place, but now multiple streets, as several thousand people have joined this protest from a vigil.
The shiny vest people say, I can't go. Autonomous zone. How'd that go in Seattle? How'd Chaz end up working out in Seattle? Time to invoke the Insurrection Act? The president has threatened it. Is it time? Let's get some perspective on that and other geopolitical issues, national security matters. Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official. Now visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thank you.
It's good to be back on the show, Dan. Thank you for having me.
What do you think? The Wall Street Journal has argued for a pause now to try to ease tensions, as if appeasement eases tensions with mobs. What's your perspective on what the administration should do here, as, again, the charge is to remove people in this country illegally who pose public safety and national security threats? And also, if you're here illegally and we come upon you in pursuit of those larger goals, then we'll apprehend you and process you for deportation too. But what should next be done given the level now of violence we're seeing in Minneapolis?
Well, my gut reaction, and again, I always throw in, I'm not a lawyer, so this is not based on, a detailed analysis of the legal framework around it, but my gut is to say, to heck with these guys, flood the place, take control of this city, and give it back to the people who really voted, not the crazy left that apparently manages to get their people in and are now the ones in the street. We saw that in Portland. That whole city was not in favor of that autonomous zone. And the people who were living in that autonomous zone were essentially prisoners of those crazy people during that time. I don't want to see the same thing fully develop here, as you mentioned, seems to be happening. On the other hand, I don't want American citizens hurt, even ones that are violating the law. They don't need to be shot and that sort of thing. So we've reached a point here. Maybe the president says, okay, we're going to pull these people out for a certain period of time, and we're going to focus on the corruption issue that's there, because a lot of people are thinking one of the main reasons the politicians in Minneapolis and Minnesota are so hot on this isn't because they just love the illegal aliens. It's because they want to get the focus off of all the criminal activity that's been going on there. We're now doing things about voter fraud. So maybe focus on those things and then bring the good guys back when the tempers calm down a little bit. I don't know. That's not.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing
more straightforward than that normally.
I mean, it's fair to be processing this too and thinking what is strategically shrewd, but I mean, but hearing that, my reaction is, well, wait a second. I mean, the federal government can, walk and chew gun at the same time, or they should be able to. You should be able to prosecute systemic fraud at the same time another agency is charged with removing people in this country illegally who pose public safety threats. And I mean, you've got Dr. Oz on the ground there, as the head of Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, talking about a building with, we'll talk about this later, but talking about a building with, 400 quote unquote home health care operations that bill $400 million a year to the federal government, and it's like a warehouse in an industrial district. It's like, what the hell is going on here? So, I mean, you can be running parallel tracks when it comes to law and order and the promotion of public safety, as well as the prevention of fraud. You should be able to.
You should, and I think the government can run those operations in parallel. But the attention of the American people, frankly, curated by the legacy press and what they report on and what they don't report on, is driving that, taking the focus off of those things, and that's can be a problem. And it has the little mini plan I just laid out there has the benefit of, okay, let's take a breath. Maybe some of these crazy people will realize, hey, this is not a good idea. This guy got hurt, this lady got hurt. Maybe I should stay home. hope that cooler heads will prevail. But, that's right now. I'm just sitting there going, yeah, I don't want to see a bunch of cops get arrested. I don't want to see a show trial somewhere. I want to see the bad guys found and prosecuted, and the good guys get the accolades they deserve for the sacrifice they made.
Well, that's fair, but of course, the problem is, God only knows what comes next if there is a change in power, even partially in November or substantially in 28. Because you have Tim Walz, like these other politicians now on the left, saying, we're keeping a log of all of ICE's alleged crimes, and we're going to turn those over to prosecutors when we can. I mean, they already have a mind's eye, it seems to me, of treating federal law enforcement officers as J6ers if there's a new administration, and they can have the federal government swoop in and start arresting officers for alleged crimes. And doing exactly those show trials and engaging in next level lawfare. Now you're going to federal law enforcement after spending all your time on Trump and his allies last go around.
Yeah, and that is a potential. That's why I think now we need to be aware that's a possibility. Let's try and defang that possibility as much as we can. I don't know. It's you're going to roll the dice no matter which way you play it. I'm the kind of guy that says if you have a law, you need to enforce it. If you don't like the law, change it. But you don't get to just ignore the laws, and that's what's going on in Minneapolis. Right?
Yeah. Well, and the other piece of this, that's lost in the conversation sometimes about trying to think about this strategically from the perspective of the mobsters and goons and mooks and Jacobins on the streets is. Okay. So, remember the point here is to protect the law abiding. And how many hundreds of thousands of known criminals do we have in this country illegally? How many preventable crimes have been committed already? How many more preventable crimes will be committed if we don't execute our responsibilities to provide for the public safety and remove people who should be removed? There can be no pause on that, because that's like the same thing as saying, let's put a pause on the public safety.
Yeah, fair enough. There's not a lot of good answers here that are simple and easy and get us right to the finish line. And we've got to go through all of them. The government side, the federal government side, needs to think very clearly, put aside emotions, and do what is the right thing to do. And, that's going to take some conversation, because there's a lot of opinions on what that is. Yeah.
I want to turn to another matter. Tensions escalating rhetorically and perhaps tariff-wise between Trump and Carney there in Canada. Started last week. But it really started when Carney did a 180 and embraced China after saying it's the greatest threat facing Canada when he was running for PM. Trump said that Canada is systematically destroying itself, that the China partnership that has been advertised is a disaster for them, and he's threatening 100% tariffs on Canadian goods. How does this shake out?
This is another one. Canada has always been one of our greatest allies, friends. Our economies are very much interlaced. Our electrical system is connected to each other. Our phone systems are connected. Canada going to China hat in hand and suddenly thinking they're the biggest help in the world has a lot of implications. It's not just lost business for Americans. It's allowing China a back door into our systems, probably way greater than they have already through their more nefarious means. And the Chinese are just laughing all the way to both the regular bank and the National Security Bank. We should not allow this to happen. And President Trump and Mr. Carney need to sit down together and put aside their animus between one another and figure out what's best for the two countries. And us walking away from each other is not the answer. and them walking to China clearly is not the answer.
Yeah, maybe Trump also learns a lesson. Probably not, but maybe you shouldn't have been trashing Poilievre and playing up Carney as a guy you could do business with when there's an opportunity to get a real conservative in as the Prime Minister of Canada. You know, elections have consequences, as people like to say, except when they go against them. One other matter I wanted to get your perspective on. Israeli press is reporting, first of all, that the number of protesters in Iran that were murdered by the regime is much bigger than reported, maybe upwards of 30,000. And secondly, reporting that in the U.S., a special department has been established to collect and verify the materials associated with the regime's repression. American officials are working to compile a list of regime figures involved in the massacre of protesters, both those who issued orders and those who carried them out on the ground, to form a kill list of Iranian regime figures. What is your sense that there will be Soleimani-type strikes against particular Iranian regime figures or something more serious that's still a real possibility?
Well, we've got all the pieces in place to do either of those possibilities, either a Soleimani type, hit the specific people attacks, or something I think makes more sense and frankly is a little easier to do than that, is to go after the IRGC, both their facilities, their barracks, basically try and eliminate them as a player, which would really cripple the regime as far as its repressive activities and put the fear of God into the other parts of their security system, the normal police, the military, who there you have a bigger chance of those guys changing sides. The IRGC are true believers. They're not going to change sides. They just need to be eliminated or arrested. So you either hit the leaders, but, there's always the XO ready to step forward. I would go after that entire organization. Just standing by and not doing anything now, I think the Israeli numbers, which are based on folks getting some reports out that had not been getting out before, are something to at least be considered. I think they're probably more accurate than what we see through the news or through any other source.
Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official, now a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thank you as always.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, and we'll talk to you next week.
Very good, sir. And Stephen Bucci joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The following is a paid political announcement.
Stay tuned for a special message from Angel Dad Joe Abraham about his daughter Katie.
Put yourself in my shoes. I just spent my first Christmas without Katie. My daughter was murdered by an illegal immigrant Governor Pritzker protected. Imagine her final breaths, knowing that you would have given your life for hers, but you didn't have the chance. Put your child in Katie's shoes. Think of the unfulfilled dreams, the unrealized joys, and the permanent loss. I'm not a political guy, but when politicians unleash violent criminals, we all need to get involved. We can do better, and we must do better. Ted Dabrowski would have protected Katie, and he'll protect your children the way I wish someone had protected mine.
I'm Ted Dabrowski, and I approve this message.
Surprise! Your expenses this month were way higher than you expected! Also, you forgot to renew your website domain and now you're in a bidding war!
You should see the look on your face!
At Progressive, we know small business owners don't usually like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise that could save you money? Getting a commercial auto quote from Progressive.
Plus, the fridge died in the break room and now everything smells weird!
Surprise yourself. See if you can save in as little as 8 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Oh, hello. It's me, the calculator that lives inside of TaxSlayer. And let me tell you, I love numbers. 1040s, 1099s, W-2s, all of them. With TaxSlayer, anyone can file a federal return for just $22.99. You'll get 100% accuracy and your biggest possible refund guaranteed. Now those are great numbers. Need help along the way? We've got US-based real human support. File by February 8th for just $22.99 and get the refund you deserve. TaxSlayer. File fearlessly.
40,000 people. That's enough to pack Wrigley Field. I'm talking about 40,000 people who realized hip and knee surgery wasn't their only option. There has to be another way. Guess what? There is. They found it at QC Kinetics, an alternative to surgery. I know this because I've met these patients. They are moving better and hurting less thanks to QC Kinetics' advanced regenerative treatments. Surgery isn't always the answer. Do your own research and talk with my friends at QC Kinetics. They offer natural treatments backed by real science. They will activate your body's natural healing power, safe, natural, non-surgical. Osteoarthritis only gets worse, so don't wait. Get started this month. 40,000 people can't be wrong. Before you choose surgery, talk with QC Kinetics and tell them Dan Proft sent you when you do. That's me. Call today, 312-827-6261. Again, 312-827-6261. Call QC Kinetics at 312-827-6261.
At Terra Vista of Oakbrook Terrace, dementia care isn't just what we do. It's all we do. We specialize in caring for those with Alzheimer's and other types of dementia. We're on the forefront of dementia care with a barrier-free, stress-free environment, so residents can explore safely and feel at home. But what truly sets Terra Vista apart? Personalized care. We take the time to learn each resident's story, where they lived, their routines, former careers, even the names of family members. Anyone who interacts with your loved one can immediately make them feel comfortable and understood. We meet our residents right where they are. Residents stay strong and engaged with multi-sensory activities, music, art, horticulture, our beautiful 18,000 square foot outdoor space, and even a personal trainer. At Terra Vista, residents aren't defined by their dementia. We honor the whole person. Speak to an advisor or schedule a tour today at terravista.org. Again, that's terravista.org, and tell them AM560 sent you.
Want to see if you could pay less in taxes? Try the quick and easy tax calculator at willsave.com. Yes, a free tax calculator. That's WILSAVE.com. Calculate how you could keep more of your hard-earned money and give less to Uncle Sam, especially in retirement. Get your free tax analysis today at willsave.com. And don't forget to tune in to Protecting Your Assets with Steve Shyman every Saturday morning at 8, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Is your child tackling new challenges in math this year? Working hard to get ahead of the pack? Here's the good news. There's a secret weapon. Mathnasium, the authority on math education. With over 1,000 learning centers worldwide, we know what it takes to build real confidence in math. Here's what sets us apart. Expert instructors who teach each student individually. No cookie-cutter approach. No rushing through lessons. We create customized learning plans designed specifically for your child's needs, helping them achieve their academic goals, not just this semester, but all year long. Whether they're struggling to catch up or ready to excel, our proven methods work. Kids leave Mathnasium stronger in math, more confident in the classroom, and ready to handle whatever comes next. Visit Mathnasium today and discover why parents trust us with their child's math education. Mathnasium, where kids love math.
Did you know most remodeling mishaps start before construction even begins? Here's something else you should know. At Forever Remodeling, we do things differently. Every kitchen, bathroom, and basement project starts with smart planning, detailed 3D designs, a clear scope of work, and accurate pricing, all sorted out before you get started. No surprises, no stress, just beautiful results, done right the first time. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, EVER, remodeling.com. And schedule your free in-home consultation today.
I can't believe how much better Dad's doing since we brought on Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest.
I know. He's more engaged, more himself. It makes such a difference having him right here at home. Around the photos, his old record player, his favorite recliner, all the little things he knows. That familiarity really matters with dementia.
And their caregivers, they're just incredible. They treat him with so much patience and respect.
Plus, they helped us tap into a Medicare program that offers 80 hours of respite care for Alzheimer's and dementia.
We're not worried anymore, and Dad gets to stay where he's happiest, at home.
Trust the caregivers at Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest, serving Cook,
DuPage, Kane, Kendall, and Will counties. You can call them 24/7 at 331-281-0728. Again, that's 331-281-0728. And tell them AM 560 sent you. Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. Senior care, only better.
Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr., now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560, The Answer. AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 7:37, the author of Clinton Cash, the author of Secret Empire, she's got a new book, The Invisible Coup, How American Elites and Foreign Powers Use Immigration as a Weapon. Seeing that play out in real time, aren't we? Insights from Peter Schweitzer, the author of The Invisible Coup, at 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 2 degrees with a wind chill of -15 here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Protesters braved the frigid temps in Chicago over the weekend, showing their disdain after a nurse was shot and killed by ICE agents in Minneapolis on Saturday. A prayer vigil was held following a march yesterday honoring the life of Illinois-born 37-year-old ICU nurse Alex Jeffrey Preddy and expressing solidarity with the people of Minneapolis. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson took to his social media several times over the weekend, calling for ICE and Border Patrol agents to be removed from the city. Police have arrested a man they say shot a woman and then shot at them. Officers fired back, hitting the suspect as he tried to flee. 28-year-old Pierre Davis is now facing several charges, including 1 count of felony attempted first-degree murder and 2 felony counts of aggravated assault to a peace officer. Both the female victim and the suspect were taken to area hospitals for treatment. This report is a service of the AM 560 store. Order t-shirts, hoodies, and more from your favorite AM 560 brands, including Profit University and The Sean Thompson Show, when you go to 560theanswer.com/store. A check of the roses coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
On February 24th, President Trump will deliver his State of the Union address to Congress.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
And AM 560 The Answer is throwing a viewing party, and you're invited to join us for dinner at the Meridian Banquets and Conference Center in Rolling Meadows. Enjoy dinner before the speech, and then watch the speech with AM 560's Dan Proft, Sean Thompson, Jeannie Ives, Amy Jacobson, and John Anthony. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/party. Sponsored in part by Stephen A. Leahy with Opum Tax Advocates.
Hey, it's Scott Tucker, and I'm here with
Amy Jacobson
from Retirement Dakota with Scott Tucker and Amy Jacobson here on AM 560 The Answer. Now, I'm a financial advisor, and Amy's the co-host for our program. You know, Amy, recently President Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. A lot of folks aren't realizing, Amy, that if they have highly appreciated assets, they can potentially tax defer the capital gains tax, place that money into a qualified opportunity fund, and then 10 years from now, get back out of that investment and pay no capital gains tax on either investment. Have you heard of such a thing, Amy?
I did not know about that. That seemed to be hidden in the bill.
It's only 900 some pages.
Yeah,
we have to pass it to see what's in it.
An easy beach read, yes.
Yes. And now there's another thing in the bill as well, Amy. Section 1202. Amy, did you read Section 1202?
I did not, but thank you for the homework assignment.
If you're a small business owner, many small business owners can now sell their small business and potentially pay no federal capital gains taxes on that capital gain of selling their business.
Wow.
If you'd like to get a free copy of my latest book, Escape Illinois, Should I Stay or Should I Go? Text the keyword book. That's BOOK to 224-496-3999. Text the keyword book to 224-496-3999. In addition to the free copy of my latest book, Escape Illinois, Should I Stay or Should I Go? You'll also get our entire Retirement Decoded toolkit. We'll also give you the opportunity to talk to us 15 minutes for free over the telephone at another time so we can go through the One Big Beautiful Bill Act with you, show you how to potentially sell your highly appreciated assets and pay no federal capital gains tax, how qualified opportunity funds work, and also if you're a small business owner, how to potentially pay no capital gains on the sale of your small business through Section 1202 of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Text book to 224-496-3999 or call that very same number, 224-496-3999.
Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Firm does not offer tax advice.
Drill, baby, drill. If you're an SEC-accredited investor looking for one of the most powerful tax advantages available in 2026, now is the time to take a serious look at Encore Energy. Under current federal guidelines, accredited investors may be able to deduct up to 100% of their investment in 2026. And for many investors, that level of tax relief is simply too valuable to ignore. Encore Energy offers operator direct participation in U.S. horizontal oil drilling in areas with a long record of success, including more than 100 producing wells already drilled. These are established fields with existing infrastructure and proven and ongoing production potential. For investors with $100K seeking aggressive tax strategy, portfolio diversification, and a way to participate directly in American energy development, call Encore Energy to get details now. These programs involve significant risk and aren't suitable for everyone. Call 1-800-278-7455. That's 1-800-278-7455. Again, 1-800-278-7455. Encore Energy, where smart investors act before the window closes. Encore Energy at 1-800-278-7455.
Hair Volume from New Nordic will make your hair look thick and healthy. Hair Volume is available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Got a problem now in the outbound Stevenson. It's a crash taking out the right lane at Western Avenue, and delays start right around Ashland Avenue. So it's about 35 minutes on the outbound side from Lakeshore to Veterans Memorial. Inbound is also 35. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Byrne Interchange. Inbound is 22. Outbound is 12. 19 minutes in on the Edens from Lake Cook to Montrose. Outbound is 17. The Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Byrne Interchange. 18 minutes. Outbound is 11. The express lanes are slow inbound between Division Street to Ohio Street, and 28 minutes inbound on the Eisenhower from Wolf to the Old Post Office. Outbound is 20. This report is sponsored by Wendy's new Biggie Deals. Choose one of Wendy's new Biggie Deals at $4, $6, and $8. The new Biggie Deals are bigger and bigger than ever. For a pretty Biggie deal, gotta be Wendy's. U.S. price and participation may vary. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will be mostly sunny with brisk and very cold conditions reaching a high of 9. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with brisk and very cold weather, dropping to a low of 5 before temperatures rise into the lower teens. Tomorrow will bring low clouds, brisk winds, and bitterly cold temperatures with a high of 14. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Amy Klobuchar, that's a charismatic United States Senator from Minnesota. She, of course, weighed in on the ICE-involved shooting on Saturday because she's running for governor. Tim Walz is no longer viable. Interesting. And so the DFL has enlisted Klobuchar, so then she can appoint her successor, too. They nicely teed that up. Here's what she had to say. She, of course, echoed the sentiment, ICE get out because state and local have control here, except they don't have control, as we've documented. It's obvious they don't have control. There are any number of examples of violence in autonomous zones that suggest they don't have control. What they want to do is appease the mob so they can push back below the surface what bubbles up anytime that law enforcement crosses the line in terms of enforcing laws that the mob doesn't like, whether it's back in 2020 during the Summer of Love or now during the summer of federal law enforcement, Operation Metro Surge and other such initiatives. Klobuchar also said this. You know, she does the Dick Durbin thing where she says very unreasonable, demagogic things, but she says so in a reasonable, Minnesota nice kind of way, so it seems like she's being even-handed when she isn't.
If your goal was to go after fraud, that's a righteous goal, but that's not what this is. If your goal was to apprehend violent offenders, good, but that's not what you're doing anymore when you're taking 5-year-olds and putting them in your car, or wrestling down citizens. Maybe one is Latino and 2 are white. They pick out the Latino and they say, where are you from? The guy's yelling, I was born here, throw him in the car, and if we're lucky, they'll let him out of that car a few bucks later because they get a bounty for picking people up. There is a reason that the International Association of Police Chiefs, which is a pretty conservative organization, just came out and said that police, federal, local, must follow the law, and that they also must follow police procedure.
Yeah,
Police trust is based on how they interact with the community. So I just look at this whole thing, and it's wrong, and it's completely out of control and out of balance, and they need to leave our state.
That was Jonathan Karl on This Week, of course, platforming that silliness, letting it go unchallenged. So, look, she's very reasonable. She just believes that ICE are racist kidnappers who are targeting 5-year-olds like that Ramos boy. Right. Okay. Tricia McLaughlin, as we talked about last week, debunked the storyline that the left continues to push, even as of yesterday, Amy Klobuchar, about the 5-year-old that was taken by ICE while the father left him behind, so they didn't leave a 5-year-old by himself, for goodness sakes. And we also found out that they tried to return 5-year-old to mom, to the custody of mom, and mom wouldn't take him. Tricia McLaughlin from DHS.
And this is a horrific smear that we're seeing the mainstream media and politicians on the left, including Kamala Harris, take and run with. The facts are actually that this little boy was abandoned by his own father. His own father was being approached by ICE agents when he ran and abandoned the child. Our law enforcement, in these frigid temperatures, stayed with the child, tried to bring him into custody with the mother, who actually would not take the child into custody, which is so sad, so horrific. Our law enforcement officers actually were taking care of the child, brought him to McDonald's, were playing his favorite music to really calm him down. This is, as Mark, there's major riots forming around our law enforcement officers. That is horrendous that the child is having to face this, but our law enforcement officers were taking care of him, and he's now reunited with his father in a federal processing facility.
Right, and now he's reunited. Now he's in prison, and if he wasn't reunited, they're separating families. Right, damned if you do, damned if you don't. When it comes to enforcing the law against these, against these goons who facilitate or trying to facilitate the treatment of citizens and non-citizens as completely indistinguishable. Like Zohran Mamdani has said explicitly when it comes to the $4.5 billion he and Hochul are now going to spend on daycare and home health care support in support of those types of businesses in New York, because it's going so well in Minnesota. And just a little bit of a flashback for additional context here, because I think it dovetails nicely with our next guest's new book. This is Hillary Clinton not so long ago, in 2014. The sunsetting of the second term of Joe Obama, talking about children in this country illegally who have, unaccompanied minors. For example, the hundreds of thousands that disappeared, speaking of people being disappeared, who were trafficked into this country under the open borders policies of the previous administration. This was the posture of Hillary Clinton and, by extension, Joe Obama a decade ago. Compare and contrast to where it is today.
We have children 5 and 6 years old who have come up from Central America. We need to do more to provide border security in southern Mexico.
They should be sent back now.
Well, they should be sent back as soon as it can be determined who responsible adults and their families are, because there are concerns about whether all of them can be sent back, but I think all of them who can be should be reunited with their families. And just as Vice President Biden is arguing today in Central America, we've got to do more. I started this when I was secretary, to deal with the violence in this region, to deal with border security. But we have to send a clear message. Just because your child gets across the border, that doesn't mean the child gets to stay. So we don't want to send a message that is contrary to our laws or will encourage more children to make that dangerous journey.
How should we read statements like that in the context of the devolution of the left's position on border enforcement? Let's discuss with Peter Schweitzer. He's an investigative journalist, author, president of the Government Accountability Institute. You know him from such books as, speaking of Clinton, Clinton Cash, as well as Secret Empires. His new offering, The Invisible Coup, How American Elites and Foreign Powers Use Immigration as a Weapon. You can get more information, order the book, theinvisiblecoup.com. Peter, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, great to be with Anya. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And so a comment like that, you know, you go to these flashbacks of what Bill Clinton and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton were saying about border security and illegal immigration, you know, between like 95 and 2014 before they had to, follow the leaders and, completely embrace open borders. You know, was that Hillary Clinton just trying to sort of parrot back to the public where they were then as they continued to sort of slowly get what they could on the path that they were taking to the point we're at today? Is that how we should understand that?
I think so, right? It's always hard to get into the head of why somebody's saying what they're saying, but she clearly said that. Other Democrats said the same thing. But on the other hand, they've really had this evolution, really over the last 20 years, of moving towards what I call weaponized migration. And so what do I mean by that? Democratic Party discovered, really beginning in the 1990s, that among new citizens, 85% of new citizens voted Democrat, and were significantly to the left of the average American. Now, that evens out over time, right? 20 years later, it's more 50-50. But the bottom line is for 20 years, new immigrants predominantly vote Democratic overwhelmingly. The other political issue here is the way that our census is counted. You know, the U.S. Census counts people. It does not count citizens. So it actually incentivizes states and localities to have more illegals because it means you get more congressional seats, you get more of the electoral college for a presidential race, and you get more in block grants. So if you look at the state of California, for example, why are they fighting so hard to avoid deportation? They want to say it's strictly humanitarian, but the hard reality is that California alone has at least 4 more congressional seats than they ordinarily would, solely because of the illegals that are in that state. And to put that in context, 4 congressional seats, you're like, okay, well, how big is that? That's larger than the congressional delegation of 13 other U.S. states. So this is a hugely important political issue for Democrats. And among progressives who, are further to the left than the Democratic Party, they are very open in their statements, and I quote them extensively in the book, as saying that this is the way you facilitate radical change in the United States. It's by importing voters and importing people that they are going to discourage from assimilating. They are significantly to the left. They are more collectivist-oriented. So this has a huge political motivation behind it.
Yeah, I remember Yvette Clarke, I think was her name, a congressman from New York, who basically said out loud, we need these undocumented immigrants to replace people who are leaving. I need them for my congressional district. In Illinois, according to Pew Research, we have 550,000 undocumented immigrants here, the people in this country illegally residing in Illinois. That's probably lowball, but let's say it's 550, the Pew number. I mean, that's a big number. It's not only, it's a little bit more than one congressional district in aggregate, but if you distribute it, it helps based on what you were talking about voting patterns for these, the first generation illegal immigrants, if you will. It helps to move the numbers such that conservatives can't win in multiple congressional districts, and that maintains the balance of power as well as the aggregate number of congressional seats that Illinois would otherwise be losing because of the population drain of actual U.S. citizens.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. The other component I would add here that I think is being overlooked, it's being overlooked in the violence in Minnesota, and that's the involvement of foreign actors. Again, my point in the book is that we're dealing with weaponized immigration. And so what do I mean by that? This is not immigration from 50 years ago or 100 years ago, where people came to the United States, wanted part of the American dream. That certainly happens still to some extent. However, you've got this weaponized migration. So you've got foreign actors like Mexico who not only encourage immigration to the United States, they see it as part of their political advantage. And you have a situation where they have created political infrastructures inside the United States that are designed around advancing their interests. So in Minneapolis, you have a Mexican consulate in St. Paul. That consulate is involved in organizing some of the anti-ICE protests. Similar things happened in Los Angeles last year with a violent protest. In fact, I quote in the book several government officials from Mexico who actually live in the United States. So think about that. Mexico has dozens of government officials, high-ranking government officials, who actually live inside the United States. And they were fanning the flames in Los Angeles as they are fanning the flames in Minneapolis. So they see this as a political opportunity. They see it as an opportunity for what they call Greater Mexico. I quote a lot of Mexican officials, including President Sheinbaum, explaining what they mean by that. It's really a evaporating of our sovereignty. But you also have other foreign actors like the Muslim Brotherhood and China doing it as well. So what we have to understand is this is not a domestic immigration issue. This is part of a larger, what I call a war of civilizations taking place inside the United States. And those are not my words ultimately. Those are quotes that I include in the book from these foreign officials.
So, I mean, to the extent that there is evidence that documents what you're saying, which I'm sure there is, and it's in your book, would you suggest the Trump administration should be expelling these foreign officials that are engaged in subversive activities here? I mean, that seems obvious, right?
Absolutely, 100%. Think about this. China and the United Kingdom have respectively in the United States 6 and 7 consulates. Mexico has 53.
Wow.
And as I point out in the book, not only are they involved in these organized violent protests, there's a Mexican official who lives in Ontario, California. He's in the Mexican Parliament, Chamber of Deputies. He's also a senior official in the Morena Party, which is the ruling party of Mexico. Last year, he went across the country, in his words, quote, organizing the militancy against Trump. He met with Antifa-type groups, and he met with other groups, and the entire objective was how are we going to encourage and sow chaos inside the United States. Those individuals should be expelled. The other reality, though, is they're also involved in our electoral politics. There was a meeting at the Mexican consulate in Oklahoma City in May of 2024 involving diplomats, officials from Mexico City, and Democratic Party activists. And the discussion was about how they had turned California from red to blue, turned Arizona from red to blue. How are they going to do that in the rest of the country? That is totally unacceptable for foreign diplomats to be having those kinds of discussions in the United States.
Well, I mean, that's so important, what you've just documented. And it seems to me like that's the mind's eye. They want us to look myopically at a moment in time in, let's say, Minneapolis after Saturday's ICE-involved shooting, and forget about the larger play they're making and the larger explanation we should be offering. So when the Wall Street Journal editorial board calls for a pause in ICE operations in Minneapolis, the response should be just the opposite for the Trump administration. They say this is a civil war. They say this is a war for civilization. This is the activities they're engaged in. We need to not only not pause, we need to ramp up.
Yeah, well, and here's the other thing that I would add to that. Step back and look at what's going on here. You have local officials in Minnesota and these other blue states that are saying, we don't agree with this federal law, which says if you're in the country illegally and you're a felon that's wanted, you should be. We don't agree with that law, so we're not going to cooperate, and we're going to encourage other people to defy you. I remember this in American history in the 1950s and 60s in Mississippi and Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
This is a replay of what we saw before, where Tim Walz has decided that I don't like this federal law, so guess what? I'm going to encourage people to harass federal law enforcement who are carrying out law. In our country, you have elections, all right? Tim Walz, if you don't like the law, you have elections, you try to change the law. You do not, as a governor, try to assert authority to prevent federal law from being carried out. That's the arrogance and the recklessness with which we're dealing right now.
Excellent reporting, as always. Peter Schweitzer is an investigative journalist and author, president of the Government Accountability Institute. If you haven't read Clinton Cash and Secret Empires, you should read those too. They're instructionals. The new book, The Invisible Coup, How American Elites and Foreign Powers Use Immigration as a Weapon, theinvisiblecoup.com, the website. The Invisible Coup is the book. Peter Schweitzer, the author. Peter, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And Peter joined us here at Chicago's Morning Answer.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hey all, Jim Carr here. I am the owner of Carr Machine and Tool in Elk Grove Village and loyal customer of Signature Bank. As a second-generation owner, I knew I had to shift from operating as an old-school machine shop to what I can proudly say is now one of the fastest-growing aerospace manufacturing facilities in the region. Signature Bank was there every step of the way through our expansion efforts, including financing our new state-of-the-art facility. Their valuable industry expertise and constant communication throughout the construction process made our vision possible. Many thanks to Signature Bank for supporting Carr Machine and Tool. You set the bar high for other banks.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Mike Lindell has a passion to help people get the best sleep of their life. He started by creating the best pillow ever, and right now he is passing the best prices to you when you use promo code LIBERTY. They want to thank you for your continued support by passing on some Christmas specials to our listeners. Get wholesale pricing on the classic My Pillows for $17.98. Transform any mattress with a My Mattress topper and save up to $100. Get a set of Giza sheets for as low as $29.98 or the 6-pack towel set for only $39.98. To get the best specials ever, go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. These offers won't last long, so call 800-489-0201 or go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY. Rest easy remembering that MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty. Call today, 800-489-0201, promo code LIBERTY.
Take the journey of living a happy, successful, and meaningful life through God. Listen to It's Time with Dan Lights, Sunday mornings at 9 on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer. News, opinion, insight. This is AM 560, The Answer. WIND, Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app, or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer Chicago.
Digging out from New Mexico to New England. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
This is historic levels of snow and ice, and then following up with single-digit temperatures today, tonight, tomorrow.
Governor Bill Lee in Tennessee, where there are the most power outages, almost a third of the more than 800,000 homes and businesses that allowed electricity this morning across the South and Mid-Atlantic. Fox Weather's Bane Fronies in Dallas, Texas.
We've seen crews out here since yesterday trying to improve the roadways so that folks can get back on them and able to get back to work, back to school.
Well, schools are closed from there up to New England. Some areas got over a foot of snow. At least 9 people have died in the storm, including a teenager killed in a sledding accident in Texas. There may be even more deaths. A private plane went down during the snow last night and then caught fire in Maine.
The FAA writing, quote, a Bombardier Challenger 600 crashed as it was taking off from Bangor International Airport in Maine around 7:45 local time. 8 people were on board, and we still don't have a status report on those 8 that were on that plane.
Fox's Brian Yennis monitoring from Boston, where there are a lot of flights canceled again today. The storm still making air travel difficult. Nearly 4,000 cancellations the day after 11,000 plus flights were grounded. President Trump's just posted on Truth Social he's sending border czar Tom Homan to Minnesota, where the anti-ICE protests got even angrier after a protester was shot dead over the weekend. Democratic officials in the state got a judge to order evidence be preserved.
The president told the Wall Street Journal the administration was reviewing the incident that led to the death of Alex Preddy. Several members of the administration defended the shooting of Preddy, saying he was carrying a gun, but several videos of the the incident show a federal officer pulling a gun away from Preddy, then opening fire on the unarmed man.
Fox's Jill Nato. Hours after Israel launched an operation in Gaza to find the remains of the last dead hostage Hamas took in the terror attack that triggered the war, a body's been located. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 1 degree here in Chicago with a wind chill of negative 18 on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. The Chicago Teachers Union says it's complied with the U.S. House Committee's request to release financial audits, but attorneys challenging the union say they're still reviewing the documents. Jim Talamonte has more.
Union leadership said they received notice that the Department of Labor was launching a compliance audit program the same day CTU complied with the House Committee on Education and Workforce's request. Angel Valencia, senior counsel for the Liberty Justice Center, said attorneys are reviewing the audits for union members who asked for them in October 2024.
The information that the union has produced in the past has just been a lot of very short, self-serving, self-drafted summaries of audits.
Valencia said the lawsuit is independent of the interest shown by the House Committee and the Department of Labor.
2 people have been hurt following an apartment fire in the Westridge neighborhood early this morning. According to reports, 4 other residents were rescued from the building. Officials say the blaze started on the first floor. Firefighters needing to use their ladders to rescue the people inside. Cause of that fire is under investigation. More airbags have been reported as stolen in our area. Chicago police say the Uptown and Lakeview neighborhoods are the latest to be targeted by thieves who are breaking into cars and leaving with the airbags. Police say Honda Civics are the most targeted vehicle. The airbags are a hot commodity on the black market, and replacing them is expensive, so authorities say a steering wheel locking device like a club can be an effective deterrent. And flight cancellations are continuing today in the wake of Winter Storm Fern. Most major airlines are offering affected passengers the option to change flights without penalties. This report is a service of the AM 560 Advantage. Membership has its privileges, including early access to event tickets, exclusive contest opportunities, and special members-only content. Join today at 560theanswer.com/join. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes, but time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Crude oil prices are higher this morning in response to the brutal winter storm hitting much of the U.S. Brent crude, the global benchmark, topped $64 a barrel. Natural gas prices also rose. Market analysts say the winter storm is disrupting production in major crude and natural gas producing regions, adding stress to the power grid. Shares of companies that mine gold are higher after gold rose to the $5,100 mark this morning, a record. Gold's been holding over 5,000, reflecting geopolitical uncertainties and market volatility. European discount airline Ryanair is boosting its forecast for the year. It sees traffic increasing on strong demand and because of early delivery of planes from Boeing. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Cosola. Invested in you.
On February 24th, President Trump will deliver his State of the Union address to Congress.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
And AM 560 The Answer is throwing a viewing party, and you're invited to join us for dinner at the Meridian Banquets and Conference Center in Rolling Meadows. Enjoy dinner before the speech, and then watch the speech with AM 560's Dan Proft, Sean Thompson, Jeannie Ives, Amy Jacobson, and John Anthony. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/party. Sponsored in part by Stephen A. Leahy with Opum Tax Advocates. Looking for some hope? Listen to Leading the Way with Dr. Michael Youssef on our sister station, AM 1160, Hope for Your Life. Weekday mornings, starting at 8.
Hey, it's Mike Gallagher, hoping you'll join me on the unforgettable Gulf of America cruise happening in November of 2026. Imagine this: turquoise waters, white sand beaches, incredible food, insightful conversations about the future of America. Scott Jennings and I will be your hosts. We'll dive into the issues shaping America as we cruise through some of the most stunning destinations while honoring the 250th anniversary of our nation. Book your cabin today. Text the word cruise to 94878. Text cruise to 94878 or visit mikeonline.com.
The following is a paid political announcement.
This is Kevin Coyne, chairman of the DuPage County GOP. I am inviting you to our Lincoln Day dinner on Friday, February 27th at Abington Banquets in Glen Ellen. We will feature keynote speaker and national political commentator Tudor Dixon. Enjoy an evening of camaraderie, great food, and Republican unity. Sponsorship packages are available. Purchase tickets today at DuPageGOP.com. Paid for by DuPage County Republican Central Committee.
This President's Day, Pure Talk is honoring Jackson and Lincoln by offering unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Meanwhile, Big Wireless is honoring Ben Franklin by charging families hundreds of dollars for the same 5G coverage. What? Franklin wasn't even a president. Hang on to those Benjamins. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and save 50% off your first month. That's pound 250, Mike Rowe, to switch to an American wireless company that's truly unprecedented. Pure Talk.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com, because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, ETHOS, ethos.com/Mike.
Listen carefully. This isn't noise. It's not hype. Silver is moving. And when silver moves, it moves quickly and without warning. Smart investors already know this. Most people don't until it's too late. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000 to get your free gold and silver rollover kit, a $49 value just for calling. History is clear. When the gold to silver ratio tightens, silver doesn't creep higher, it explodes, often outperforming gold by multiples. Right now, most Americans remain dramatically underallocated to precious metals, even as central banks around the world are aggressively increasing their gold reserves. History shows precious metals have performed best when interest rates move lower while inflation stays above target. You don't need perfect timing. You need to be in position before the move finishes. Call 800-900-8000 now. Find out about a tax and penalty-free rollover in 2026. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-900-8000 now. That's 800-900-8000.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today. Online at 560theanswer.com/mobile or text the word app to 312-642-5600.
If you or someone you love are getting high quotes for dental implants, visit almostfreeteeth.com today. With a medical PPO insurance plan, it's possible to save 90% off on average to be able to smile again. Check if you qualify now at almostfreeteeth.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Eller. Going to start on the northbound tri-state. The exit ramp for Halstead Street is closed with police activity. And then further north, you've got some slowdowns approaching the Eisenhower, but the Eisenhower looks great both ways from Wolf Road to the old post office. Watch out for a crash on Lakeshore Drive southbound right at Belmont Avenue. It's taking out one lane. And you also have an accident on the inbound Dan Ryan at 79th Street, but overall, it's 14 minutes inbound and 12 outbound between 95th and the Bird interchange. On the outbound side of I-57 at the Cal-Sag Channel, the right lane is blocked, all because of another accident, and no major slowdowns right now on the Stevenson, looking good on the Kennedy and the Eden. This report is a service of the AM 560 Advantage. Membership has its privileges, including early access to event tickets, exclusive contest opportunities, and special members-only content. Join today at 560theanswer.com/join. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will bring mostly sunny skies with brisk and very cold conditions. The high will reach 9 degrees. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with brisk and very cold weather as temperatures drop to a low of 5 degrees before rising into the lower teens. Tomorrow will be characterized by low clouds and brisk, bitterly cold conditions with a high of 14 degrees. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Our very own BLM Brandon, you know, he's the mayor of Chicago. He was the featured guest on an unremarkable episode of Firing Line with Margaret Hoover, as is every episode of Firing Line with Margaret Hoover, because she's an unremarkable interviewer. What a as I've said before, there's no greater commentary to the denigration in the quality of policy and political discourse, the intelligence level of it, than to use firing line going from William F. Buckley to Margaret Hoover. I can't provide a more succinct commentary on what's happened in the last 40 years in political discourse in this country than to offer that illustration. She asked him, because she thought it was cute, that he named that snowplow Abolish ICE. Abolish ICE, the snowplow naming contest, the breads and circuses that we all enjoy in Chicago. Abolish ICE was the winner, and he got a big kick out of that, and she did too. But no, seriously, should we abolish ICE? Yeah.
Look, the ICE agents and the federal government in this moment have acted irresponsibly. The use of ICE has been quite abusive. It's demonstrated how terrorizing that it could be. And any form of government that harms people, we should question whether or not it should exist.
You know, it's interesting. I remember people like BLM Brandon 6 years ago, after the George Floyd death, saying the same things about local police. I remember people like Brandon Johnson saying the same thing about Chicago police after the shooting of Trayvon Martin. Abolish ICE. Abolish the police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. Wasn't that one of the chants, I recall, of those protesters / rioters / purveyors of symbolic takings marching down Bull Mish over to Wacker, looting stores on Michigan Avenue too, by the way. I know, symbolic takings. So, you know, it's the same old script with a new fill in the blank. For more on this and other law enforcement matters, pleased to be joined again by Eugene Roy, retired Chicago Police Chief of Detectives. He is an advocate for officer wellness, PTSD recovery, and suicide prevention. Eugene Roy, thanks for being with us again. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Dan. Good morning.
I mean, am I misremembering that? Doesn't the rhetoric in the direction of federal law enforcement, ICE, CBP, which basically we've heard before about that too in Trump term 1, but isn't it reminiscent eerily of the defund the police posture of Black Lives Matter protesters some 6 years ago across America?
It certainly appears to be following the same protocol, the same rules, the same program. It's all the same. Demonize the police, demonize law enforcement.
What, as you've watched, including but not limited to the ICE-involved shooting over the weekend in Minneapolis, what is your view of ICE operations? And also, too, I mean, if you might distinguish what we all see in terms of the coverage in states that are not sanctuary states or sanctuary cities versus what we see in states and cities like Chicago and Illinois, like Minneapolis and Minnesota, that are?
Well, first of all, what we're seeing here is a media-fueled rush to judgment. We see every amateur who's got access to any sort of video program on their laptop or their phone is looking at videos from different sources where we can't determine the source or the accuracy. And they're fueling this rush to judgment. You know, we have amateurs weighing in on what's going on up there. It's outrageous, and the media fuels it. The media allows it.
What did you see from, you know, the available video that we've all been consuming? What did you see on Saturday? Was there, I mean, obviously the loss of life is always concerning, but, you know, in terms of the approach of ICE officers, was there anything that concerned you, something that you would have been done different, or do you sort of, you know, not want to second guess at this point in terms of your observation that there's a rush to judgment going on?
There's 2 points to your question. First of all, yeah, it's way too early. It's premature. Let's let all the video get gathered. Let's have it professionally and independently analyzed. And don't forget, too, that there's a certain time period where the federal agents have opportunities to go through a sleep cycle or two before that they have to make a formal statement regarding the incident. So I don't want to get into the incident per se. As far as the way things are being conducted, I would suggest a more surgical approach. I mean, this thing of just having mass convoys driving down the street, it's unproductive, and it's just going to keep fueling this. I think that ICE needs to learn from some of the other problems they've had in other cities and adapt a more surgical approach to what they're doing. Identify the people who really need to go, the murderers, the child predators, the drug cartel people. Those are the people they should be focusing on. Do that, do it effectively and surgically.
But, you know, I mean, do you believe there are complications to even if they turned a blind eye to people that are just in this country illegally that they happen upon in pursuit of somebody who is a violent criminal, who's a public safety threat? Even if they did that, I mean, at this stage with these organized operations of people following them and communicating on signal chats and interfering, sometimes assaulting or worse, biting off a finger. That apparently happened this weekend, incredibly. Do you see that even if they were going after a child predator, they'd be getting the same treatment from the same people?
That's always going to be there. The political structure in Minnesota has mobilized and energized their base, which is even more of a reason that ICE has to respond. You can't keep playing the same game and getting the same results and expect things to get better. Move on to a more effective surgical method of operations. The haters are always going to be there. Focus on the high value. Take away the emphasis of the negative message.
I wanted to get your attention on something that's more local and specific and primarily domestic, although not 100%. Headlines like this that we still see in Chicago. I know everybody is celebrating the multi-generational low in murders across the country, and that is good news. But that hardly is the same thing as saying we don't have a crime problem in Chicago and that we don't have a lot of crimes that could be prevented that are not being prevented. And the headlines like this: cops shot paroled 6-time felon who opened fire on them after shooting woman. Woman and man on pretrial release for 8 felony shoplifting cases arrested again, found hiding in West Loop dumpster. 8 arrests in 6 months. Women allegedly beat bus passenger, 2 others while AWOL from court. And the stories that are almost daily of multiple repeat offenders on electronic monitoring, not abiding electronic monitoring, able to cut loose from electronic monitoring without much in the way of repercussions because there doesn't seem to be much in the way of oversight. The combination of the Safety Act and what is seeming to me an ineffectual electronic monitoring program, the removal of the ShotSpotter cameras. I mean, what is your sense of the domestic policing environment in Chicago under this mayor and this governor?
To say it's difficult is a dramatic understatement. Let me point out a couple things, first of all. You know, we've had Pritzker's been in office for this is the second term now. We've had the Safety Act, which is terrible. We've had City Hall is now under the control of somebody who's definitely anti-police. The biggest issue, though, that I see is we had 8 years of Kim Foxx and everybody's a good person and don't prosecute people. And we've only had our new state's attorney work for just about a year. Look at the dramatic impact she's had. Look at the expediting the processing of felony gun cases in cooperation with the Chicago police. And they're not losing these gun cases that can be approved by the district watch commanders instead of felony review. We're making progress, but we're trying to get out of a hole that's been at least 8 years in the making, if not longer. It's a long haul.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I heard a rumor this weekend. I just want to get your take on it. Even if you know something about it, I know you're not going to comment, but let's just play a hypothetical. I heard a rumor that Police Chief Larry Snelling is going to retire in advance of the 27 election for mayor and is considering running for mayor. Whether you know anything about that rumor or you think it's true or not, do you think somebody like that would be a good candidate to initiate a paradigm shift that is required in Chicago?
First of all, I respect and admire the superintendent. He's done one hell of a job in a relatively short period of time, overcome several major obstacles. I have enough trust and respect and confidence in him. I'll let him speak for himself. As far as a change agent, yes, we definitely need somebody who's going to speak up even more than Chief Superintendent Snelling has done, and become that energizing force to educate people, to let them see what's happened over the past 8 years and what needs to be done to turn this around.
Eugene Roy, retired Chicago Police Chief of Detectives, advocate for officer wellness, PTSD recovery, and suicide prevention. Eugene Roy, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care.
Take care. And Eugene Roy joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen, I'm going to be straight with you. Pain doesn't just hurt your body, it cripples your life. I know this because I've seen it with people I care about. If joint pain is holding you back, start the new year by doing something different. There's a way to get real relief without surgery and without putting your life on pause. But you have to take that first step and contact my friends at QC Kinetics. They provide regenerative treatments that help your body repair the areas that are causing pain. I've talked to people who've been through this. These are real results. Achy knees, hips, shoulders, wherever it hurts, instead of facing surgery that sidelines you for months, QC Kinetics treatments happen in the office. Simple procedures that deliver big, life-changing results. January is supposed to be your clean slate month, so make it one. Stop managing the pain and start solving it. Call now to learn more and tell them Dan Proft, that's me, sent you when you do. The number 312-827-6261. That's 312-827-6261. Call QC Kinetics to start the year right. 312-827-6261. Looking to purchase a new home? Then you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Don, trucker, 30, married to Mary, teacher's aide, 29, 2 kids. Combined income, $125,000 a year. They called Team Hochberg to secure a mortgage on their first home. David answered all their questions, explained the funds required for a down payment and closing costs, then introduced them to an experienced realtor. Let's review. David answered Don and Mary's questions, introduced them to a realtor, and helped them secure a mortgage on their new home with a backyard they can build everlasting memories. If you're purchasing a new home and would like the same outstanding service as Don and Mary, call David now at 855-56-DAVID or visit 56david.com. Team Hochberg has helped thousands of AM 560 listeners, but he can't help you if you don't call 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. Don't take my word for it. Check out Team Hochberg's more than 700 5-star Google reviews. NMLS 1124061.
If you're over 65 and struggling with knee pain, Joint Relief Institute offers a guaranteed way to treat it. It's non-surgical and often covered by Medicare and private insurance. It's JRI's Joint Arthritis Treatment, knee lubrication placement that's so accurate it's 100% guaranteed and can relieve your knee and shoulder pain in 10 minutes or less. Book your risk-free consultation today and get back to walking, golfing, pickleball to cycling without pain or medication. Call 708-315-6800. Meet the provider, get an x-ray and joint consultation. Why wait? JRI has treated over 30,000 Chicagoans and performed over 400,000 procedures. You could be next. Over 5,000 5-star Google reviews can't be wrong.
Stop living in pain. Call the Joint Relief Institute today, 708-315-6800, or visit jointreliefinstitute.com. Locations in Glenview, Oak Brook, and Orland Park. That's 708-315-6800 for the Joint Relief Institute. Medicare and most private insurance plans accepted.
Are you confident your IT systems are rock solid? There could be cracks you don't see. Don't leave your technology to chance. Take the Access One $10,000 challenge to find out. For more than 30 years, Access One has helped businesses strengthen their security, protect their data, and improve resistance to cyber vulnerabilities, all with reliable U.S.-based support. And here's their promise. Take a listen. If the experts can identify at least one measurable improvement to your IT systems and processes based on NIST or CIS regulations, they will reward your compliance excellence with $10,000. This free confidential risk assessment is available to businesses with 25 to 500 employees, and it's a great way to verify your IT is secure and efficient. No gimmicks, just proven results from an experienced IT partner. Ready to put Access One to the $10,000 test? Visit access1inc.com/challenge or call 800-654-1555 to schedule your risk assessment today. That's 800-654-1555. Certain conditions apply. See details online.
Surprise! Your expenses this month were way higher than you expected! Also, you forgot to renew your website domain and now you're in a bidding war!
You should see the look on your face.
At Progressive, we know small business owners don't usually like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise that could save you money? Getting a commercial auto quote from Progressive.
Plus, the fridge died in the break room and now everything smells weird!
Surprise yourself. See if you can save in as little as 8 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Oh, hello. It's me, the calculator that lives inside of TaxSlayer. And let me tell you, I love numbers. 1040s, 1099s, W-2s, all of them. With TaxSlayer, anyone can file a federal return for just $22.99. You'll get 100% accuracy and your biggest possible refund guaranteed. Now those are great numbers. Need help along the way? We've got US-based real human support. File by February 8th for just $22.99 and get the refund you deserve. TaxSlayer. File fearlessly.
Salem News Channel, your go-to source for news and conservative opinion. We reveal how politics hits home, how your family, your freedoms, your way of life are debated, challenged, even regulated. Every day we cut through the noise, pitting nonsense against common sense. On every screen, in every home, Salem News Channel is across America.
Welcome back to Ask Hassleus. I'm Weston. What's your question?
I give up. Where are they?
Who?
Employees.
What?
You say Hassleus Mattress Showrooms don't have any employees. But come on, bud. I know better.
I assure you.
Are they cooped up in a secret back room?
Huh?
Or waiting outside in the bushes?
Sir.
I know. They're hiding under the beds, aren't they?
Listen, Hassleus Mattress Showrooms really are employee-free. Give our mattresses a try with no pushy sales guy.
Nope. Don't believe it.
You won't believe our prices either. Beauty Rest, Sealy Posturepedic, and more for way less.
Right.
Others sell a King Aspen Cove A for $2,520, but our everyday low Hassleus price is just $1,374. Free next day delivery too.
Sure. Next you'll say I can get a free adjustable base with my purchase through Monday.
As a matter of fact, yes.
Oh, come on!
Save on Sealy Posturepedic and Beauty Rest, plus get a free adjustable base. Find an employee-free showroom near you at Hassleus.com.
Mike Lindell has a passion to help people get the best sleep of their life. He started by creating the best pillow ever, and right now he is passing the best prices to you when you use promo code LIBERTY. They want to thank you for your continued support by passing on some Christmas specials to our listeners. Get wholesale pricing on the classic My Pillows for $17.98. Transform any mattress with a My Mattress topper and save up to $100. Get a set of Giza sheets for as low as $29.98 or the 6-pack towel set for only $39.98. To get the best specials ever, go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. These offers won't last long, so call 800-489-0201 or go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY. Rest easy remembering that MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty. Call today, 800-489-0201, promo code LIBERTY.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
You know, nothing beats the comfort of a perfectly heated home.
And when it comes to heating your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the best.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Air Right Heating and Cooling is fast. When your furnace breaks down, they'll fix it right away.
Just like that. Big time results. No waiting around. You get the job done right. And let's face it, who doesn't love being warm, right? It's beautiful. When it's freezing, I crank up that amazing furnace. Burn, baby, burn. Trust me, you'll say, wow, I've never felt this warm in my life.
If you like keeping your hard-earned money, then contact Air Right Heating and Cooling. Tell them AM 560 sent you, and right now you'll receive $56 off any service.
Unbelievable.
Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 8:38, we'll turn our attention to that parallel track we were discussing earlier in the program with Stephen Bucci, the ongoing investigation into systemic benefits fraud in Minnesota. Dr. Oz was on the ground. Talk about that, as well as the political capital that may have to be expended if you want to do the right thing when it comes to enforcing federal immigration law. Spend some political capital on the front, invest a little bit to reap returns on the back end, but do Republicans have the wherewithal to do so? All of that at 8:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 2 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. We have a wind chill of 16 below. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson have issued statements responding to the latest shooting death by ICE agents in Minneapolis. Pritzker calling the agents involved in Saturday's incident dangerous and unprofessional, while Johnson called for ICE to be abolished. Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino claims agents fired defensive shots, saying 37-year-old ICU nurse Alex Jeffrey Preddy was interfering with agents as they worked to arrest a suspect and resisted when agents tried to disarm him. Police are asking for help in locating a missing 15-year-old boy. Sebastian Scott was last seen around 9 a.m. Saturday morning. He's described as Asian with black hair and eyes, about 5'8", weighs about 155 pounds. He was last seen wearing a long gray puffy jacket, sweats, and gym shoes. Anyone with information on Sebastian Scott's whereabouts is asked to call 911. This report is a service of Air Right Heating and Cooling, offering AM 560 listeners $56 off any service, including inspections, or take advantage of limited-time federal rebates on a new furnace. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
On February 24th, President Trump will deliver his State of the Union address to Congress.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
And AM 560 The Answer is throwing a viewing party, and you're invited to join us for dinner at the Meridian Banquets and Conference Center in Rolling Meadows. Enjoy dinner before the speech, and then watch the speech with AM 560's Dan Proft, Sean Thompson, Jeannie Ives, Amy Jacobson, and John Anthony. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/party. Sponsored in part by Edward Jones agent Nolan Webster.
Sean Thompson here, and with me today is my friend Dr. Michael Huber, who is one of the creators and developers of Virago. So Dr. Huber, why don't you tell us what Virago is, what inspired you to create it, and the benefits of it?
I created Virago with 23 natural ingredients that work together to create this immune response in the body. I created it to fight viruses in the beginning, and it's turned into a huge immune booster in a liquid form.
Right, and why a liquid versus a pill?
A liquid provides a rapid response time in the body, and it's optimal for absorption. When you swish it and it's in your mouth, stimulating the bitter taste receptors, you get a rapid response. Like within 15 minutes, you can have a decongestion in your nose.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. And now you can order a bottle at myvirago.com. Myvirago.com. Use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. Virago and Maha.
Maha starts with Virago.
Making America healthy again.
Did you know that your dog ages 7 times faster than you do? That means that every day with your pup matters. Greetings, naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black here. And while you're planning years ahead, your dog is aging at warp speed. Those gray whiskers, slower walks, longer naps, they're all reminders that time is precious. So here's what most dog owners don't know. You can actually slow down some of the aging process with something as simple as the live nutrition in Rough Greens. The problem is that bag of kibble that you're feeding them has been stripped of all the live nutrients that fight aging. Rough Greens puts all of that back. Every scoop delivers the live nutrients that help your dog's body fight the effects of time. Stronger joints, sharper mind, more energy at any age. If your dog only has so many days with you, shouldn't every day be their best? I'll send you a free Jumpstart trial bag. You just cover the shipping. Make every day count. Go to roughgreens.com, use discount code TIME because time is precious. That's ruffgreens.com, discount code TIME.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Jam-packed northbound on the Tri-State at Cicero Avenue with a collision taking down 2 lanes. The Eisenhower, 43 minutes inbound from Wolf to the old post office. Outbound is 29. The outbound Stevenson is stop and go with an accident at Western Avenue. It's 37 minutes from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. Inbound is 40. 27 minutes inbound on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange. Outbound is 14. The express lane's real slow into the Stevenson. The outbound side of I-57 slows down at 99th Street with a collision. And on the outbound Edens, there's a crash at Wilson Avenue, 24 minutes from Montrose to Lake Cook. Inbound is 16. This report is the service of AutoZone. Get in the zone. Starting stronger starts at AutoZone, where they've got battery solutions in the form of free battery testing, free battery charging, and replacement batteries that fit your needs. That's what makes them America's #1 battery destination. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will be mostly sunny with brisk and very cold conditions reaching a high of 9. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with brisk and very cold weather, dropping to a low of 5 before temperatures rise into the lower teens. Tomorrow will bring low clouds, brisk winds, and bitterly cold temperatures with a high of 14. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. On February 24th, President Trump will deliver his State of the Union address to Congress, and AM 560 The Answer is throwing a viewing party. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/party.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. One issue we didn't address, we've addressed this before in other police-involved shootings, but so many of these issues we've addressed before in other police-involved shootings too, and we have to address them again. But the issue of 10 shots, you have some people making an issue of that. It's like the 16 shots with Laquan McDonald. I think I said Trayvon Martin when I was talking to Gene Roy. Of course, I meant Laquan McDonald. They made a big deal about that, 16 shots. But of course, you have to look at the context of this. So you have half a dozen ICE officers trying to corral this individual, and then one of them yells gun, and they open fire while retreating. And so you get to 10 shots quickly when you've got ostensibly multiple officers shooting to neutralize a threat, which is what they're going to do when somebody yells gun. So just in terms of the number of shots being something that's particularly meaningful, it is, you empty your gun until the threat is neutralized. That's the point. There's no magic number of shots fired. Okay. I wanted to fold in this other issue, sort of I mentioned in passing in our discussion with Stephen Bucci back in the 7 o'clock hour, in addition to, obviously, ICE enforcement operations, we have this other matter of systemic benefits fraud in Minneapolis and federal investigation into it, and all of those preening politicians vilifying ICE under part of the investigation. They've been subpoenaed, at least. Ellison, Walls, Fry. And Dr. Oz, who's taken up this matter in part his own self, as well he should, being the director of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and so many of the fraud allegations associated with fleecing the combined federal and state Medicaid program, and the Trump administration moving to end federal support for sanctuary states as of February 1. I know this is being litigated like everything else, but that's the basis upon which the president made that move. So Dr. Oz and his first deputy show up to the Griggs Midway building in Minnesota, and on site they do a little bit of their own citizen journalism, Nick Shirley style. Take a listen.
Behind me is the Griggs Midway building. It looks like a factory because it was a factory, a linen factory. They made cloth back there. Converted to an office building. You'll notice all those little signs there, and there's tons of little businesses inside. Roughly 400 Medicaid businesses were started in the building behind me over the last several years. They generated about $380 million of billing that you, the taxpayer, were putting up. That means roughly each business had $1 million of billing. It's an industrial area. There's no reason that you have a mother bring her child. You can't imagine getting extra business support. An autistic child probably wouldn't want to come here. You hear the noise. It's just not a hospitable place. The question is, how is it possible 400 businesses billing almost $400 million were able to thrive here? What did the owner of the business, this building, think was happening inside? Why did no one in the state figure out this was a concern? And perplexingly to me, in a place of this nature, an industrial complex that people would not come to for child care or autism care or transportation support, how is it possible this could come up like an abscess in the heart of Minneapolis and nobody was watching? I think it's because they weren't looking. They didn't want to know that this problem was happening here. And it's very concerning to me that only now, when there's more federal supervision, are people beginning to ask the tough questions. So you'll notice there's already a watch group that's observing us. They had people in cars taking pictures of us. They're calling around trying to find out what's going down. And I'll tell you, they don't have to, wonder. We're telling you, we're here to figure out why these folks are being defrauded, why the people who live in Minnesota aren't getting access to the care they deserve because it's been stolen. But the fact that you've got people behind me in cars concerned that we're even talking about this story should be something that worries you. It bothers me. There's been a censoring of truth, an inability just to own what's happening in their state. That's concerning to me. They talk about being nice in Minnesota. I want to be nice too, but a person who's a good person doesn't have to always be nice. They got to be truthful and be honest. And sometimes you got to tell people stories they don't want to hear. That's what doctors do, and that's what we're going to do here in Minnesota. Tell you the truth.
312-642-5600 is the Chicago Morning Answer call-in and text line. Give us a call or text if you want to comment on that systemic fraud. Remember that? Oh, yeah, we remember. And it was interesting to see the video. Oz mentioned it. Dr. Oz mentioned it. Cars following him, flipping him off as he's in front of the Griggs Midway building. But wait. I thought Amy Klobuchar said that investigating fraud is a righteous cause. They don't really mean it. They don't really mean it any more than they mean it when they say, of course, remove violent offenders. They don't want to remove violent offenders who are here illegally. They tell ICE to get out. And they're sanctuary cities and states. They're not going to do it. They're not going to cooperate with ICE under executive authority. They're told not to, local police. So they take positions that they think are sellable because they know their actual positions are not. But they don't care about rooting out fraud any more than they do about returning violent criminals in this country illegally to their home countries. They just don't. What they say versus what they do. It's all, what's a way to phrase this in Minnesota? I guess it's the Somali waltz is a good way to put it. And that's not my way. That's Natasha Owens in partnership with Real America's Music. Take a listen to this little ditty.
Minnesota, you might have heard there's quite a load of money missing, new millionaires, all the kids are leering in fake daycares. The Somali waltz, the Somali waltz,
yeah.
It's the same old song, the Somali waltz, it's sad but true, they're screwing you. Right, you could be governor, and if you need a green card, marry your brother with liberal judges on the take.
Oh, it's already here in Illinois. I can't wait for their Pritzker waltz or something like that. Let's have a Pritzker prance. We'll have to work on. Maybe I'll get a hold of Natasha Owens and see if we can brainstorm, workshop a little ditty for Illinois. That is the early favorite for political song of 2026 too. By the way, the Somali waltz. I'll post that on X for your use and enjoyment. And just to close the loop on this, they don't care about fraud, as if it's not obvious. Tracking Oz like he's an ICE agent, same thing. Don't you mess with the systemic fraudsters in this, this building, the 400 strong of them. Hey, don't you mess. Those are our people. And Zoran Mamdani, Zoran the commie in New York, he made it very, very clear. There is no difference between the legal citizen in New York City and the illegal immigrant, not when it comes to government largesse for daycare, home health care subsidies.
Put it very clearly. These are programs for every single New Yorker. These are not programs that are going to ask the immigration status of any one of the children. All of those children are New Yorkers. They should all be enrolled in pre-K and 3K, no matter where they were born or where they come from. And we are also proud to be a
sanctuary city. Yeah, we know. Right. No difference between the citizen and non-citizen. They're the same under the law, same rights, same benefits, same. No difference. That's the actual position. And I'm sorry, has anybody decried what Zoran Mamdani says? Those who are those on the left who pretend to be serious about rooting out fraud, protecting the integrity of benefits programs? No, of course they haven't. Do you think they will? No, of course they won't. It doesn't matter. They're taking rhetorical positions that they will not act in furtherance of. Could it be more obvious? Tom in Tucson, Arizona. Hey, Tom, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer. Tom in Tucson.
Good morning, Chicago.
Oh, there you go. Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, Chicago. 70 degrees today.
Don't rub it in.
I'm sorry. I'm going to go golfing today.
I just told you not to rub it in. Okay, go ahead.
Politicians will always be politicians. It's a contest. They'll drive by in the limousine. You'll be bloody on the road. They'll look at you like a peasant.
Thanks for the call, Tom. Fairways and greens, buddy. Yeah. Grant, Rockford.
Good morning, you guys. Tom, you can enjoy that 70-degree weather while we freeze up here. But anyway, I find it ironic that the left is defending concealed carry now when we all know how they feel about it. But my overarching point is these people would not be dead if they just didn't put themselves in that situation. Why would you go to this protest with a 9 and 2 magazines? Or why would you drive your car at a police officer? These bad decisions lead to bad outcomes. And FAFO, you mess around with the cops, you're going to lose.
Thanks for the call, Grant. I put it another way. I was thinking about this over the weekend when the news came that there was another ICE-involved shooting and the individual involved, the suspect involved, had died. I immediately thought of Friar Lawrence's admonition to Romeo, in Romeo and Juliet, when he said that violent delights have violent ends. And that's what you're seeing play out. Violent delights have violent ends. Not wishing for it, describing what is going to happen when you play the not even might makes right, or end justify the means. You play the game that, as I've said from the outset of today's show, what people believe isn't the problem, even if you believe in open borders. The problem is that you believe in the goodness and the righteousness of your view, and you think it absolves you from any consequences of your behavior in terms of how you advance your views. That's where you get in trouble. Your sense of moral rectitude does not immunize you from the law. Not in terms of what you think. No, that's fine. Or even what you say, but how you behave. Glenn in Orlando.
Yeah, how you behave means that a certain part of your brain has to be operating in a way that says, I better not do this. So, I think there's some brain development that's needed. But anyway, yesterday there was a statement released by a lot of Minnesota businesses and sports teams requesting that the tone of everything, things be toned down. And I'm like, what about all the fraud and the manipulation going on? And I mean, Minnesota is just a disaster, and nobody is addressing the root cause of what caused all this. It's all stealing.
Thanks for the call, Glenn. Appreciate that. Yeah, I saw that. It was like the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce and a bunch of Fortune 1000 CEOs whose businesses are headquartered in Minnesota. It was open letters from CEOs of large Minnesota-based companies and associations. With yesterday's tragic news, we're calling for an immediate de-escalation of tension and for state, local, and federal officials to work together to find real solutions, blah, 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 blah. The interesting thing on this, as some people noted, it was not really dissimilar to what J.D. Vance had to say last week during his visit. And it was dissimilar from what you may have heard in Trump 1.0 in his first term, which is it would have been much easier and much more likely that the same 60 CEOs of large Minnesota companies would have decried the Trump administration's heavy-handed tactics or something like that. And this was a much more banal, even-handed statement, which tells you something about their improved understanding of the political dynamics on the ground when it comes to law enforcement. It was an interesting letter, not because of what it said, but because of what it didn't say. Verlon, Michigan.
Hey, how's it going, Dan? I'm sorry to be off topic, but you mentioned it, and then you went to like 3 straight guests. I was hanging on trying to talk to you about it. You mentioned the should he invoke the Insurrection Act, and I say absolutely no. Our friend Corey from Woodline, he disagrees with me, and Tom from Blue Island, he disagrees with me. But I want to express this. What they're doing now in Minnesota doesn't even scratch the surface of what they did in 2020 when they committed arson, when they looted, when they caused billions of dollars of damage, when they attacked police officers with bricks and ice bottles and lasers and blinded them. And the question will be presented to Donald Trump. Well, you didn't enact it then. Why would you do it now when this doesn't even scratch the surface? And what would your answer be if you were president? It's both political. Back then it was about to be the election of 2020, and now it's about to be the midterms. So that is, it all comes down to being political. Don't give them what they want. If he unleashes the military on the American people, that will be the narrative. That will be the narrative from sun up to sundown, 24 hours a day, and we could lose the midterms. He's having restraint. Yeah. Don't give him that.
Well, thanks for the cover line. There's a flip side to that argument too, as we sort of went back and forth with Bucci earlier in the show, which is to say, if you allow lawlessness to reign while federal law enforcement is trying to carry out the enforcement of federal immigration law, and the federal government is thus compelled to have their back. If you allow that to happen, what's happening in Minneapolis, if you allow that to spiral out of control like what happened almost 6 years ago, then there's a political consequence for that too. You're Mr. Law and Order guy. You're talking a big game, but when it comes down to securing a community that has been given over to neo-anarchists, you're not doing anything or you're not doing enough. So don't be so sure. I mean, it was a different dynamic because it was domestic crime. It was the enforcement of domestic law. I mean, basically state and local laws mainly. Obviously, there's a federal component to it, but it was domestic law enforcement that was the target, not federal law enforcement and federal immigration law in the summer of 2020. Kevin in Austin, Texas.
Real quick before I get to why I called, I think the Trump administration needs to do a better way of communicating the case for why they're going after violent criminals. I think something as far as the heartstrings, and I think a campaign like a political campaign needs to be sent by that. Start showing pictures and examples of in Minnesota of the violent offenders that are being taken out.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I've said that. And what the campaign I would run is reminding everybody why they're doing this. They're doing this for people like Katie Abraham. They're doing this so we don't have more Katie Abrahams. Remind people of the victims that they're forgetting while all the focus is on professional agitators or maybe even amateur agitators that make terrible decisions and put themselves in harm's way and force terrible choices on law enforcement. Remember what this is about. It's about the hundreds of thousands of people in this country illegally that have preyed and will prey on law-abiding citizens. That's what this is about. Right. Thanks for the call, Kevin. Mary Kay and Oak Brook, very quickly.
Oh, hi, Dan. You can't even Topgolf up here. It's so freaking cold. And who would want to go to Naperville with all the gang activity in the parking lot? But I wanted to say I like Dr. Oz, and I think it's simple. It's honesty. It's just about honesty. And the Dems are not honest. You can't trust them. He did not just talk about like what's going on in that building, the Griggs building, or
right. Yeah. Thanks for the call, Mary Kate. Right. Are you interested in $400 million in curious, if not decidedly illicit billing? And he made the important point too. When fraudsters loot the Medicaid programs, the people who rely on Medicaid services see their access and quality of care worsen as a result. So you want to talk about fundamental unfairness. We're for people who play by the rules, who color inside the lines in this country, and the other party is not. It's simple as that. All right. Thanks for everybody who chimed in this morning. We appreciate it. Great conversations all morning. Back with more tomorrow. It is now 9 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
He's sending the border czar to Minnesota. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. President Trump posted that on Truth Social this morning, calling Tom Homan tough but fair as the anti-ICE protests rage on. Upset over Saturday's deadly shooting of a protester as they demonstrate outside hotels ICE agents stay at.
This latest riot happened last night at a Minneapolis Hilton. Protesters banged on trash cans, slammed snow shovels, blew whistles, and tried to force their way in.
Fox's Matt Finn in Minneapolis.
A federal judge ruled the Trump administration